Introduction. For 3 humble years, I nurtured an unrequited love for that man. One fateful night, seizing the opportunity of his inebriation, I stealthily entered his chamber. I bore his child, yet he harbored suspicions of my infidelity. Alas, I found myself unable to defend my innocence, for words eluded me. When I lost the child, he finally came to his senses, but by then, my heart had already turned to ice. Until that day, when he cast me into the floodwaters, as I was engulfed by the whirlpool, I longed to utter "I love you," yet no sound escaped my lips. Chapter 1. I unexpectedly stole a kiss from him. At midnight, I quietly pushed open the door to Long Yanting's room, and a potent aroma of alcohol assailed my senses. He was drunk again. I tiptoed inside. Indeed, Long Yanting lay sprawled on the bed in an indecorous manner, a flimsy blanket haphazardly draped over his waist. In our 3 years of marriage, Long Yanting had never permitted me entry into his sanctuary. Only during his drunken stupors at midnight could I slip into care for him. Stealthily, I gazed at his handsome visage. I gathered the blanket he had kicked onto the carpet, unfurled it, and gently covered him. My gaze flitted nervously, striving to avoid his naked form. But as I drew the blanket to his chest, my hand inadvertently brushed against his firm and supple torso. A gasp escaped me, as if I had been scalded, and I withdrew my hand, feeling a scorching heat rise to my cheeks. Surely, he would disdainfully kick me away again? As I pondered this, I cautiously glanced at Long Yanting. Perhaps due to the extent of his drunkenness this evening, he remained deeply asleep, his breath exhaling a strong scent of alcohol, as if attempting to intoxicate me as well. I had intended to cover him and depart, yet this single glance rendered me immobile. Long Yanting lay in slumber, his eyes gently closed, a fringe of thick lashes casting shadows upon his sharply defined features. His straight, prominent nose and his alluringly thin lips, complemented by his tousled short hair, exuded an untamed wildness. "Leave, hasten your departure," I fervently commanded myself within, yet my hand betrayed my will and reached out involuntarily. As my fingertips neared Long Yanting's handsome face, I instinctively recoiled, my fingers trembling slightly. "Do not play with fire," I admonished myself once more. However, my hands seemed to have transcended the bounds of rational control. After a brief pause, my fingertips gently caressed Long Yanting's cheek. The heat radiating from his skin surged through my fingertips, like a powerful current, coursing up my arm and striking my heart. My heart raced wildly. This warmth and tactile sensation set my pulse pounding, leaving me flustered and bewitched. Long Yanting remained oblivious to my presence. Amidst my panicked exhilaration, my anxious heart began to flutter once more. My fingertips gradually traced the contours of Long Yanting's face, mapping the depth of his brows and eyes. When my gaze fell upon his enticingly thin lips, an inexplicable courage surged within me. I suddenly cupped his face in my hands and leaned down to him while long hair cascaded down like a curtain, enveloping the two faces that were drawing ever closer. A strand brushed against Long Yanting's nose, gently swaying, yet I remained oblivious to it. At that moment, I trembled violently. Gazing at his lips, mere inches away, I was torn between the urge to lean in and the instinct to retreat. Just as I steeled myself to close my eyes and press my lips to his, Long Yanting suddenly opened his eyes. Though still heavy with sleep, just a narrow slit revealed a piercing clarity and chilling brilliance that struck terror into my heart. I flinched and inadvertently found my lips meeting his. The sensation was scorching and soft. If my earlier encounter with his chest felt like a jolt from a powerful current, this moment was akin to a staggering voltage of 100,000 volts. My mind went blank, my breath hitched, and my heart raced as if it would leap from my chest. Long Yanting's eyes narrowed briefly before half-opening his lips uttered a single word. "Get out." It felt like a thunderclap, a sudden awakening. My mind cleared instantly, and I quickly recoiled, tumbling onto the carpet with a thud. Long Yanting turned over and fell back into a deep slumber. I sat dazed on the carpet for a while before I finally gathered myself and fled in disarray. That night, I had audaciously stolen a kiss from him. Chapter 2. I stole my sister's happiness. Returning to my room, I gazed at the mirror, astonished by the woman with flushed cheeks and glistening eyes staring back at me. Could that be me, so enchanting and alluring? My fingertips brushed against my lips, as if still retaining his lingering warmth. I had been kissed by Long Yanting. No, more accurately, I had kissed him. Just recalling that electrifying moment sent my heart racing anew. A bold and reckless thought began to blossom within me. What if I could fully possess this man? Get out. Long Yanting's icy words echoed like thunder in my ears, drenching me in a wave of icy water on a frigid winter's day. I involuntarily shivered. Raising my head, I seemed to see his cold gaze reflected in the mirror. If he were to discover my reckless thoughts, he might very well end me. Yet perhaps it was a residual warmth on my lips that bewitched me, compelling me to try, even if I were to fly into the flames. I retrieved scissors from a drawer. Snip, snip, my cherished long hair, nurtured for over 20 years, fell in glossy black strands, scattering across the floor. A bittersweet ache surged within me. Tears streamed down my face, yet regret eluded me. Soon, my waist-length mane transformed into a sharp cheek bob. I discarded the scissors and turned to seek out my sister's former garments. Half an hour later, a shrewd and capable woman stared back at me in the mirror. I had transformed into my sister's likeness. Grasping a taupe eyebrow pencil from the vanity, I delicately added a beauty mark to the corner of my EY.M. My sister and I are twins, and this mole is the sole distinction upon our faces. However, those familiar with us can easily tell us apart. My sister, having once served as Long Yanting's assistant, is characterized by her short hair and professional attire, exuding an air of sharp competence. In contrast, I am adorned with flowing long hair and prefer to don princess-like gowns, often described as a delicate fairy meant to be cherished in the palms of one's hands. This dynamic persisted until the day I wed Long Yanting. Despite 3 years of marriage during which he has shown me nothing but disdain, I have steadfastly remained true to myself. I yearn for the day when he might glance back at me, not because I resemble my sister, but simply because I am who I am. Wrong Zishi. Today, I made the momentous decision to sever my long hair. The conviction I had harbored deep within me for 3 long years was, in an instant, obliterated by my own hand. In my quest to win that man's affection, I ultimately transformed into my sister's likeness. Casting one final glance at the woman in the mirror, with her short hair and fitted skirt, I forced a smile that barely concealed my bitterness before turning away and stepping out, leaving a trail of fallen locks behind me. Long Yanting remained in a deep slumber, his sleeping posture as audacious and unruly as his character. I quietly approached, making my way to his bedside, gazing into his captivatingly deep eyes. Once I resolved to act, an unexpected calm washed over me. I reached out, cradling his face, allowing the heat radiating from his skin to sear into my palms. My gaze fell once more upon his lips. Long Yanting possessed a truly exquisite mouth, its delicate curve and defined line, often pressed into a straight, indifferent line, revealing a perfectly measured aloofness. Taking a deep breath, I leaned in once again. In an instant, Long Yanting's eyes flew open. But this time, in a fleeting moment, his piercing gaze transformed into boundless tenderness. Tonight, I have stolen my sister's happiness. Chapter 3. Sister, I apologize. The night stretched infinitely. A drunken Long Yanting resembled a fierce wolf. Time and again, it felt as though he was tearing me apart from within, leaving me on the verge of disintegration. Each instance was accompanied by a blinding flash of white light in my mind, and just as I was about to succumb to blissful unconsciousness, Long Yanting would pull me back from the precipice of my fading awareness. Z-E, Z-E, he murmured in my ear repeatedly. These 2 syllables cast a spell over me, rendering me too fearful to surrender to euphoria or to slip into slumber, no matter how fatigued I felt. I pinched myself to maintain a shred of consciousness while incessantly hypnotizing myself. He is calling for you. Zishi, Zishi, how melodious. I lost track of time until Long Yanting, finally satiated, turned over and fell into a deep slumber, much like a well-fed leopard. My eyelids had long since fused together, yet I dare not close them. If I were to awaken in the morning and find myself in his bed, he would undoubtedly seize me and unceremoniously toss me out of the window. With great effort, I dragged my aching, exhausted body upright, hastily dressed, and pulled a thin blanket over Long Yanting. The moment my feet touched the ground, my legs buckled, and I collapsed onto the carpet. Ouch, that rascal! I nearly rolled and crawled out of Long Yanting's room, utterly disheveled and embarrassed. How shameful! How awkward, how utterly disgraceful. Upon returning to my room, my legs gave way, and I fell onto the carpet, succumbing to a deep slumber. When I awoke, the blinding sunlight streamed in through the gap in the curtains. I had spent the entire night on the carpet. Or perhaps it was less than half a night, considering how long Yanting had toyed with me for so long. The mere thought of last night made my cheeks burn with heat. Shyness, sweetness, happiness, intermingled with an indescribable bitterness and sorrow, surged within me, a tumultuous mix of emotions. I was a thief who could not bear the light. I had stolen my sister's happiness. An intense wave of guilt coursed through me like lifeblood, flooding my entire being. My mind cleared instantly as I rose from the carpet, dragging my weary, noodle-like body to my bed. I changed into a nightgown and stuffed the clothes I had worn last night, which belonged to my sister, deep into the bottom of the wardrobe. After completing this, I still found no peace. A thief remains a thief. I resolved to apologize to my sister, even though since the day she fell into her condition. Long Yanting had never allowed me near her room. Her room was situated at the end of the quietest corridor. She had been in a vegetative state for 3 years. I had been married to Long Yanting as her substitute. For 3 years, he had never touched me, and I had maintained my identity until last night. As I pushed open the door, warm sunlight poured in at an angle. My sister lay peacefully on the bed, her short, tousled hair exuding tranquility and gentleness. Gazing at her serene, sleeping face, a wave of guilt washed over me, compelling me to bend deeply at the waist. "Sister, I am sorry." As I straightened up, a sudden gust of wind swept in behind me. With a heavy sigh, a strong and powerful arm suddenly pulled me into a warm embrace from behind. "Z, you're awake? Z, it seems I am not merely dreaming. Z." The scorching breath brushed against the back of my ear as Long Yanting's iron grip enveloped my waist, constricting tightly as if he intended to meld my being into his own. It hurt. I parted my lips, yet no sound emerged. Since that fateful day at the age of 4, when I witnessed the tragic loss of my parents in a car accident, I had lost the ability to speak. Before I could muster any response, Long Yanting spun me around, drawing me into the warmth of his broad chest. Chapter 4. You can never replace her, ever. Long Yanting donned a deep gray robe, its lapels carelessly open, revealing his sun-kissed skin and well-defined muscles, exuding an alluring tension. I couldn't help but inhale deeply, the familiar scent and warmth reminiscent of last night enveloping me. My heart raced violently, as if it were about to leap from my throat. "Z, you're awake. How wonderful." Long Yanting's warm palm cradled my face, and before I could fully tilt my head up, his handsome visage turned toward me, his heated lips and tongue sweeping over mine, instantaneously robbing me of all breath. The awake Long Yanting was a stark contrast to the intoxicated version from last night, at times fervently domineering like a blazing summer day, and at others, tenderly gentle like a soft spring rain. I found myself utterly defenseless against him at any moment. He burst forth like a brilliant firework in my mind, illuminating my life of over 20 years, igniting it. As a prolonged, passionate kiss concluded, I was utterly disoriented, my eyes sparkling with a dreamy glimmer. Looking back at Long Yanting, I saw a pair of eyes as deep as a cold pool, ablaze with an intense flame, swirling with a sense of unknown, perilous emotion. I averted my gaze, feeling a twinge of guilt, and timidly licked my dry lips. Alas, this small gesture instantly betrayed me. "How could it be you? Roan, Z, she. How dare you cut your hair? Who permitted you to come here? Who allowed you to impersonate Z? You can never replace your sister. Ever." Long Yanting roared like an enraged lion, his eyes aflame with fury. With each thunderous shout, I retreated a step, shrinking back like a lamb awaiting slaughter. After 3 years of marriage, I had grown accustomed to Long Yanting's indifference, immune to his cold demeanor. Yet, witnessing such unabated rage was a first for me. It seemed my desire to be my sister's shadow had finally ignited his ire. Indeed, as he stated, I could never substitute for my sister, ever. His words pierced my heart like sharp daggers, invisible wounds opening within, bleeding profusely. He cornered me against the door, looking down at me with disdain, sneering, "What? One stab at your sister is not enough. Do you seek a second?" I stared at him in shock, shaking my head fervently. "No, it's not like that. I did not stab her. I did not." Yet, I found myself unable to voice my desperation. "Get out." Long Yanting's voice was frigid as he suddenly shoved me outward. I I stumbled back, nearly colliding with the railing behind me. Once I regained my balance and lifted my gaze, bang! Long Yanting had slammed the door shut with a resounding thud. I stood rigidly in the corridor, staring at the closed door, envisioning him beside my sister, meticulously styling her hair, tenderly wiping her hands, softly whispering sweet nothings to her, and tears cascaded down my cheeks uncontrollably. In my childhood, Long Yanting favored my sister and held no affection for me. As we matured, Long Yanting's animosity towards me deepened following my sister's tragic incident. The knife that pierced her was not wielded by my hand. She took her own life. Yet, I have never found the courage to clarify this matter. Even if I did muster the words, I doubt Long Yanting would believe me. Moreover, I am indeed burdened with a certain degree of guilt, for prior to my sister's demise, I had once asked her a rather selfish question. Would you be willing to relinquish Long Yanting to me? Chapter 5. Could you possibly lend him to me? After the calamity that befell the Rong family, my sister and I were raised in the Long household. I was at a loss for words, living in a state of perpetual inferiority. In contrast, my sister was astute and capable. Upon graduation, she joined the Longshan group, becoming the personal assistant to Long Yanting. It was only natural for the Long family to choose her as their daughter-in-law. On the eve of her wedding, I entered her room while she was trying on her wedding dress. Watching the radiant smile on her face, I could not help but feel a profound sense of envy, jealousy, and sorrow. If I had not lost my ability to speak, could I have also become as proficient as she? Might I have won Long Yanting's affection? In a moment of inexplicable impulse, I gestured and asked, Sister, could you, in light of that incident, grant me Long Yanting? The eyebrow brush in my sister's hand fell with a sharp clatter, her complexion turning ashen. The events of that fateful day when we were four remain an eternal wound in our hearts, a shared secret between us. During our parents' car accident, in a moment where our lives hung in the balance, our mother desperately flung open the car door, pushing both my sister and me out. As we fell into the grass, I could have hidden behind a large rock, but my sister, with remarkable quickness, squeezed in and pushed me out instead. Ultimately, we both emerged unscathed, yet I witnessed the tragic moment of our parents' demise, which rendered me mute forever. My sister has carried the weight of guilt ever since. She has repeatedly expressed her wish to make amends and urged me to keep our secret. I complied, preserving the silence. In truth, I was merely a 4-year-old child. Her act of pushing me out was likely a natural instinct for self-preservation in the face of danger. Why should I hold it against her? Yet now, I despicably wielded it as leverage against her. I had not intended to threaten her. It was a fleeting thought that I blurted out. My sister was evidently shaken by my words. The Long family places great importance on character, and should they learn of that incident, my sister's standing in their eyes would likely suffer greatly. Biting her lip, her hands trembled. Zishi, over the years, I have indeed wronged you. Seeing her distressed expression filled me with immediate remorse. I yearned to convey to her that my words were but a passing thought. I harbored no desire to compete with her, as long as she found happiness with Long Yanting. However, I cannot articulate it, nor did I know how to express it through sign language. In a flurry of gestures, my sister glanced towards the door, suddenly seizing the fruit knife beside her. Zishi, I owe you. Thus, if you desire Long Yanting, I shall yield him to you. But without him, I cannot continue to live. Sister, no. I lunged towards her, but it was too late. With a swift motion, she plunged the knife towards her heart. Sister, I screamed, yet no sound escaped my lips, and I could only grasp the knife's handle in desperation. What are you doing, Z? With a fierce shout, Long Yanting swept me aside like a gust of wind, enveloping my sister in his arms. Z, are you all right? His voice trembled as much as his grip. Sister struggled to open her eyes, slowly gazing at me. Yanting, you, Mary, her, please, do not speak. Long Yanting embraced my sister and fled like the wind. After a desperate rescue, my sister survived, but she was left with only her body, devoid of her soul, becoming a tranquil sleeping beauty. As the wedding approached, the Long family had no choice but to allow me to take my sister's place, becoming Long Yanting's bride. Although Long Yanting married me in accordance with my sister's wishes, he soon harbored resentment towards me. Chapter 6. I am a sarcasm. I stood for an extensive duration before my sister's tightly closed door, long enough for my legs to grow numb. Yet Long Yanting remained unyielding in his absence. It was inappropriate for me to intrude upon my sister's sanctuary. I had disrupted the tranquility shared between the two of them. I wiped away the icy tears from my cheeks and bowed deeply before the door before turning to leave. As I took a step, a wave of fatigue and weakness surged through my legs. Suddenly, I recalled the chaotic scene from last night. No, if Long Yanting were to discover it, he would surely strike me down with a knife. A sense of panic gripped my heart, and disregarding my exhaustion, I hurriedly stumbled back into Long Yanting's room. The bedding was in disarray upon the bed. I lifted the covers and discovered a patch of dried blood at the center of the blanket, scattered like deep red plum blossoms. My face flushed with heat, and I hastily tore off the blanket. Fortunately, Long Yanting had never been one to tidy his bed. It was only after he left that I would secretly come in to arrange it. He had a penchant for light gray items. In fact, there were several sets of such bedding in the wardrobe. I quickly retrieved an identical blanket from the wardrobe and clumsily spread it over the bed. What should I do with the soiled blanket? Wash it or throw it away? I clutched it into a bundle, turning it over in my mind, indecisive. Although the events of last night were mortifying, they were, after all, a testament to my transformation from a girl into a woman. After some contemplation, I resolved to take it back and cherish it. Just as I took a step, footsteps suddenly echoed from outside. It was Long Yanting. My heart raced in fright, and without a moment's thought, I shoved the bundle of blanket beneath the bed. With a soft click, the door swung open, and Long Yanting's somber voice reached me. Rong Zishi, what are you doing? I straightened up, and to avoid detection, I casually tugged at the freshly laid bedding. Long Yanting frowned, reiterating yet again, I've told you countless times that my room does not require your tidying. Leave. Noting that he was completely oblivious to the concealed object beneath the bed, I felt a wave of relief wash over me, and I quickly fled. I dashed down to the kitchen, where I began preparing breakfast. Long Yanting never ventured into the kitchen, a space that offered me a sense of ease and security. I opened the refrigerator, revealing row upon row of exquisitely packaged dumplings, his favorite dish. Although he had never explicitly stated it, I remembered every detail of his likes and dislikes. I carefully avoided anything he might find distasteful, except for myself. Once the dumplings were cooked, I carried them to the dining room, intending to call Long Yanting, when a piece of paper quietly caught my eye. I glanced down. Out on business for half a month. A brief 5 words, devoid of punctuation. It mirrored Long Yanting's demeanor towards me, as if even a single glance or a word spoken to me would be a desecration of his feelings for my sister. Once again, I find myself on a business trip. I picked up the note and placed it into a diminutive storage box beside me. Although Long Yanting has never graced me with a warm demeanor, he has never vanished without a trace. Each time I embark on a journey, he leaves a message. As I gazed into the box, already filled with a plethora of business trip notes, my heart felt as though it were suffocated by a tangle of wild grass. A sense of unease enveloping me. I must quickly retrieve that blanket. In a flurry, I rushed to Long Yanting's room, only to find that he had locked the door. How amusing it is that in my own home, my husband, while on a business trip, would choose to lock his door. Standing in the empty house, watching the bowl of dumplings gradually grow cold on the table, I couldn't help but feel that my very presence was a bitter irony. Chapter 7. The Tenderness of Gu Tian Nan after a night of exhaustion. I found myself devoid of appetite as I stepped out with an empty stomach. The resounding bang of the door echoed, leaving a hollow space in my heart. Glancing at the time, I hastily slung my backpack over my shoulder and dashed toward the entrance of the community. I work as a sign language teacher at an esteemed special education institution. Due to experiences from my childhood, I have never been able to learn to drive. Yet Long Yanting has never offered to drive me to work. Each day, I spend half an hour running out of the Villa district to catch a bus at the nearest stop. Beep! A car horn blared behind me, prompting me to step aside, breathless. A sleek white Ferrari gradually came to a halt beside me, and the window slid down. Zixi! Gutian then leaned out, his exquisite features bathed in the gentle morning light, resembling a prince from a Greek fairy tale. His smile was exceptionally warm and captivating. Upon seeing him, my mood instantly brightened, and I gestured to inquire, "What brings you here?" Gu Tian Nan appraised me from head to toe, his brow raising in surprise as he asked, "Did you cut your hair?" I felt a tinge of embarrassment as I brushed my hair back. Surely he wouldn't mock my attempt to emulate a refined style? Truth be told, it looked rather appealing. After saying this, Gu Tian then opened the car door for me, urging, "Get in." Complying, I settled into the car, and he reached over to carefully fasten my seatbelt. My cheeks tinged with warmth as I shyly nodded in appreciation. Gu Tian Nan's gaze darkened slightly. "See, we grew up together. There's no need to stand on ceremony with me, understood?" I nodded again. Had he gone on another business trip? I lowered my head, my lashes fluttering and my hands, resting on my lap, slowly curled into tight fists. Gu Tian Nan sighed softly, handing me a warm cup of milk as he started the engine. The journey was enveloped in silence. I held the cup of milk, calming my tumultuous thoughts while feigning nonchalance as I gazed out at the scenery. From a corner of my eye, I occasionally caught a glimpse of Gu Tian Nan's striking profile, slightly aloof in the rearview mirror. Gu Tian Nan was my superior. He was the founder of that prestigious special education institution. To this day, I remain puzzled as to why, being the scion of the Gu family, he chose to venture into establishing a special education institution instead of taking the reins of the family business. Nonetheless, it was he who taught me sign language, and this job has liberated me from the shadows of inferiority, granting me a new lease on life. Ich hatte profound gratitude for Gu Tian. However, Long Yanting seemed to harbor an intense animosity toward him. I vividly recall the expression on Long Yanting's face upon discovering that Gu Tian Nan was the mastermind behind the institution, one of sheer rage, as if he wished to consume me whole. He disdained me, yet could not bear to see me grow too close to any other man, especially Gu Tian Nan. I mused that this must be a manifestation of his machismo, considering I was his wife. As I pondered these melancholy thoughts, the Ferrari suddenly came to a screeching halt. A sharp, piercing sound grazed the ground, akin to a force that threatened to rupture one's eardrums. "Are you all right?" Gu Tianin immediately reached out, pulling my head into his embrace. I sensed his voice, along with his arm, tremble slightly. Never before had I experienced such tenderness from Long Yanting. A wave of emotion surged through me, causing my nose to tingle. Gently, I extricated myself from Gu Tianan's hold and shook my head. Concern etched on his face as he glanced at my pale countenance. He reached out to smooth the disheveled strands by my cheek, murmuring in a remorseful tone, "I'm sorry." I offered a light smile and shook my head. How could I possibly blame him? If it weren't for that red Ferrari careening towards us, he would have never needed to slam on the brakes. Raising my gaze, I saw the door of the red Ferrari swing open, revealing a glistening red stiletto and a long, fair leg. Following, there was a meticulously made-up face, radiating fury. Ling Feifei, Gu Tianan's fiancée. Observing her wrathful expression, as if she wished to tear me to shreds, I realized that today's events would likely not conclude amicably. Indeed, Ling Feifei charged over, flinging open the car door, and shouted, "Shameless! Get down here!" Chapter 8. What are you doing? What are you up to? Before I could utter a word, Gu Tianin had already enveloped me in his embrace, his dark eyes fixed intently on Ling Feifei, his handsome face cloaked in a stormy gloom. Seeing her fiancé defend another woman right before her eyes sent Ling Feifei into a furious frenzy as she bellowed, "Gu Tianin, you had better give me an explanation. Stay away from her. If you trouble her again, I will personally go to the Ling family and call off the engagement." Gu Tianan's voice, frigid and devoid of warmth, responded with a decisive slam of the car door, and in an instant he pressed the accelerator, speeding away. Through the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of Ling Feifei in a fit of rage, flinging one of her high heels in our direction. She loathed me with a burning passion, for she harbored feelings for Long Yanting, who had become my husband. In an alliance for family interests, she had wed Gu Tianan, yet he treated me with far greater kindness than he did her. Thus, Ling Feifei seized every opportunity to lash out at me. Upon reflection, I found her situation rather pitiable. Yet, who among those ensnared in the throes of unrequited love does not evoke sympathy? I gestured for Gu Tianan to stop the car, pointed to Ling Feifei behind us, and signed, "Go comfort her." Gu Tianan remained unmoved, his gaze fixed upon me. his dark eyes brimming with a complexity I could not decipher. Since she is to be your wife, regardless of your feelings for her, please treat her kindly. After conveying my message, I turned away from Gu Tianan's inscrutable expression, opened the car door, and walked towards the distant bus stop. I was uncertain of what Gu Tianan communicated to Ling Feifei, but thereafter, she ceased to create trouble for me. Days passed, and each evening upon returning home from work, I would instinctively glance at the tightly shut door of Long Yanting's room. Before I knew it, the 14th day after Long Yanting's business trip had arrived. He was to return tomorrow. An undeniable thrill surged within me, prompting me to visit the boutique supermarket in our neighborhood after work to purchase an array of items that Long Yanting adored. 2 large bags, heavy in weight. As I carried one bag in each hand, I waddled along like a penguin. Suddenly, my vision blurred, and the weight in my hands lightened. Looking up, I found myself staring into Gu Tianan's gentle eyes. "I will carry that for you," he offered. I hesitated for a moment. During the past half-month of Long Yanting's absence, I had often encountered Gu Tianan, both at work and after hours. As childhood friends, I had never perceived any impropriety in our meetings. However, after the incident with Ling Feifei, even I, though somewhat slow to realize, understood the necessity of maintaining a respectful distance. "No, thank you," I attempted to convey, but before I could fully express my refusal, Gu Tianan had already taken hold of the 2 heavy bags and strode ahead, leaving me no choice but to follow quietly. As we passed through the grove, the wind stirred the willow fluff, momentarily blinding me. Ugh, I squinted in discomfort and reached up to rub my eyes. "Don't rub them," Gu Tianan exclaimed, releasing the bags to grasp my hand firmly. "The fluff is so light. If you rub your eyes, it will only worsen the irritation. Here, let me blow it away for you." Reluctantly, I tilted my head upward and allowed Gu Tianan to cradle my face, his warm breath drawing near. "What are you doing?" A thunderous voice erupted, laced with fury like a storm. With that, a resounding bang echoed in the air. I disregarded the piercing pain in my eyes, rubbing them vigorously before opening them, only to behold Long Yanting, his fist clenched, resembling a vengeful demon risen from the depths of hell. Meanwhile, Gu Tianan staggered back several steps after receiving a punishing blow from him. "Yanting!" I opened my mouth, yet no sound emerged. Instead, I could only gaze at him with trepidation and silent pleas. However, in Long Yanting's eyes, my vulnerability appeared as mere cowardice. "Very well." His gaze burned with icy fury as he suddenly seized my wrist and turned, leading me towards home. "Yanting, you cannot do this." My voice was stifled, forcing me to trail behind him at a hurried pace. With a resounding slam, the door shut, barring Gu Tianan from entering. With a swift motion, Long Yanting produced a key, unlocked the bedroom door, and unceremoniously flung me onto the large bed. Chapter 9. Love cooled and solidified the moment I lay back. The reflection of Long Yanting's dark, ink-like handsome face filled my gaze. His piercing eyes swept over my short hair, and the disdain in his expression was unmistakable. "No, please, not like this." I clutched the blanket tightly, shrinking back in distress. Although I had once yearned to be here, it was never meant to be in such a manner. Long Yanting strode forward, yanking the blanket from my grasp, leaving me exposed and vulnerable. His striking features magnified before my eyes. "Rong Zi Su, is this truly how desperate you are for a man? For the past half-month, you have been nothing but affectionate with Gu Tianan. Aside from kissing you, what else has he done?" No, he did not kiss me. He merely wanted to help me with my eyes." I shook my head vehemently, yet I could not muster a single argument. Flames of anger flickered in Long Yanting's eyes as one hand reached for my collar. A sudden chill enveloped me, prompting me to shut my eyes in embarrassment. Long Yanting seized my hands, pinning them above my head as he leaned in closer. The familiar weight and warmth returned, an overpowering and domineering force that offered no tenderness. Amidst the pain, I felt an overwhelming sense of humiliation. In that moment, all my affection for this man cooled and solidified. Long Yanting's handsome visage wavered in my blurred vision, transforming into a straight line, dispersing my last shred of resolve. The night stretched infinitely. Long Yanting, like a fierce and insatiable wolf, continued to dismantle me time and again, until even the smallest crevices of my bones cried out in agony, leading me to a complete loss of consciousness. When I awoke, the space beside me was empty. Believing Long Yanting had departed, I struggled to rise, attempting several times to no avail. A soft, mocking sound escaped him. I looked up to find Long Yanting standing across the room, gazing down at me with a chilling smile that curved his lips. How could this man wield my love so recklessly? My love was humble. It should not be trampled upon repeatedly. Gritting my teeth, I finally managed to rise, gripping the edge of the bed as my legs trembled. The mockery in Long Yanting's eyes deepened. It appears Gu Tianan's training has not been sufficient for you. His cutting words, like sharp blades, sliced through the air, striking at my heart without drawing blood. I struggled to stand tall, taking cautious steps toward Long Yanting. I did not. I gestured emphatically, my expression resolute. Suddenly, Long Yanting's temper flared, his brows furrowed as he growled, "Stop gesturing at me. I detest this behavior. Just say what you need to say." Indeed, he loathed that I was rendered mute. I bit my lower lip tightly, suppressing my tears, and turned my face away, refusing to look at Long Yanting's arrogant and furious visage. Suddenly, he reached out and grasped my chin, twisting my face back to force me to meet his gaze. He merely frowned slightly, yet an icy, chilling aura emanated from his eyes, enveloping me. "Do you not even wish to glance at me now? Enjoying your time with Gu Tianan, are you? Do you think he is so remarkable? If it were not for the desire to win your affection, would a healthy man like him spend his days engaged in such trivial competitions with you? Is there no sense of shame? Shame? Is it wrong for me to speak? How is it shameful to communicate through sign language? You even wrongfully accuse me of harboring some unseemly relationship with Long Yanting. Long Yanting, it matters not if you do not love me. You may disregard my affection, but you shall never insult my love." Anger coursed through me, causing my entire body to tremble, and I raised my hand, intending to strike Long Yanting's face. Chapter 10. Indeed, you have slept with him before my fingertips could brush against Long Yanting's cheek. He effortlessly seized my wrist. A sardonic smile curled at the corners of his lips as he spoke in a sharp tone. "I had no idea that after a fortnight apart, you would have the audacity to slap me. Release me." My brow furrowed tightly, and I glared at him with fiery eyes. With a gentle flick of his wrist, I stumbled and fell onto the carpet. Just as I settled on the ground, Long Yanting's triumphant laughter echoed above me. "Look at you. How will you even go find Gu Tianan now?" Suddenly, as if recollecting something, he turned abruptly and lunged toward the disheveled bed, yanking the covers to the floor. The light, gray sheets lay pristine, unmarred save for a few creases. Nothing else. Long Yanting spun around, pointing at me in disbelief, resembling an enraged lion. His voice hoarse with fury. "You slept with him. You truly have slept with him." I slowly raised my gaze to Long Yanting, feeling as though this man, whom I once loved to the core, had become a stranger. The sacrifices I made over the past 3 years now appeared so childishly absurd. Ibura no Shama. For I had given myself to him half a month ago. Gazing into Long Yanting's crimson eyes, a smirk of mockery and coldness crept onto my lips. This secret I vowed to carry to my grave. "Rong Zishi," Long Yanting bellowed, tearing the sheets from the bed and hurling them over me. Enveloped in the fabric, I resembled a cocooned silkworm, utterly disheveled. Yet, I did not feel anger, unlike Long Yanting, who was seething with rage. The greatest sorrow lies in a heart that has died. When one is utterly disillusioned with another, what is there left to be angry about? Calmly, I peeled the sheets from my head and gradually rose from the carpet, my steps unsteady as I made my way toward the exit. Long Yanting's gaze was icy, his chest heaving violently like a volcano on the verge of eruption, desperately seeking an outlet for his fury. Before I could reach the door, a loud crash erupted behind me. Crash. Clang. I did not pause nor look back. Instead, I retreated to my room, locked the door, and collapsed into sleep. I spent the entire day in my room, neither eating nor drinking. When I finally emerged, I discovered that Long Yanting was still at home. Upon seeing me, he regarded me with a frosty gaze, then casually grabbed a thermos from the dining table, poured a cup of hot milk, and placed it on my seat. "Huh, After 3 years of marriage, this was the first time Long Yanting made me milk. Had it been in the past, I would have been overwhelmed with gratitude, eager to offer myself in return. But now, I simply walked past the dining table toward the hall. I would rather consume junk food outside than drink anything he offered. Long Yanting sat at the table, a hint of derision glimmering in his eyes. Soon, I grasped the meaning behind that derision. The hall door was locked, and the key, which was usually placed at the entrance, had mysteriously vanished. It was evident that Long Yanting had hidden the key away. I turned back and reached out toward Long Yanting. He cast a sidelong glance at me, feigning ignorance, exuding an air of nonchalance. My frustration boiled over as I stepped in front of him, gesticulating wildly while exclaiming, "The key! I want to go out." My movements were exaggerated, brimming with intense indignation. Did he not detest my gestures? I was determined to show him nonetheless. Long Yanting did not even bat an eyelid. He merely continued sipping his milk with leisurely composure. Enraged, I seized the cup in front of me, tilted my head back, and gulped it down in one go, akin to chugging beer, before slamming the empty cup back onto the table, fixing him with a fierce gaze, and extending my palm once more. The key, at last. Long Yanting lifted his gaze to meet mine and uttered a single sentence. "You can't go anywhere. Are you attempting to confine me? This is unlawful." Yet, Long Yanting paid no heed to my silent outcry. After finishing his milk, he turned and retreated into his room, slamming the door shut with a resounding thud. Chapter 11. Can't bear to be apart for 3 days? I am under house arrest. The moment I heard the ringtone of the music, he snatched my phone away. I could only catch a fleeting glimpse of the screen, where 3 words flickered, "Gu Tian Nan." Long Yanting severed all my ties to the outside world. Apart from standing by the window of the villa to catch a breath of fresh air, I was confined to this place. Even the staircase leading to the rooftop garden was locked. Was he afraid that I would climb to the top to call for help? Or was he worried I might leap from there? What a joke. I suddenly realized that I knew nothing about the man I had once loved so deeply. Long Yanting was exceedingly busy. Often, the vast, quiet room was filled only with the rhythmic clattering of his keyboard. Yet, what was the purpose of his relentless work? Cooped up in this house with me? I approached him, holding my writing board, and displayed the message I had penned. "I have not attended school for 3 days. Let me go, I want to work." Long Yanting lifted his gaze to meet mine, a torrent of emotions swirling in his eyes. His expression tinged with a hint of the bizarre. Can't bear to be apart after just 3 days? This domineering, selfish, petty, and sordid man. I took a deep breath, my resolve firm, and continued to write. "I have nothing with him. Please do not misunderstand." "Nothing?" Long Yanting let out a scoff. His eyebrows arched high as if he had heard the grandest of jokes. "I witnessed you in his embrace, saw him kiss you, and yet you dare to tell me there is nothing between you?" Suddenly, he surged up like an enraged lion, pointing an accusatory finger at me. "If you truly have nothing, then where is your innocence?" His formidable and chilling presence forced me to retreat several steps, the writing board in my hand crashing to the ground, shattering into pieces. A part of me that had desperately clung to hope also shattered. That writing board was a purchase made when I married Long Yanting. He despised my use of sign language. Every time I gestured, he would raise his eyebrows in disapproval and scold. "Do not gesture at me. Just speak up. Your voice is perfectly fine. Use it." I tried to open my mouth, but no sound emerged, as if an invisible hand was tightly gripping my throat. Eventually, I resorted to the writing board. In 3 years of marriage, amidst the despair of unrequited love and a life lived in humility, I had never again communicated with Long Yanting through sign language. I slowly raised my eyes to Long Yanting, shedding my submission and timidity, leaving only a calm indifference in their depths. Then, I stepped over the shattered pieces of the writing board, disregarding his fury, and walked directly to my room. Bang! Long Yanting slammed his laptop shut. It was his work device, a precious gift from my sister, and he cherished it deeply. I heard the hurried, heavy footsteps approaching from behind, and just as I pulled open the door to my room, Long Yanting swept in like a fierce wind, his long arm reaching across my body, his strong hand pressing against the door, pushing it inward. Bam! The door was slammed shut. I was forcefully pinned against it by him. Gazing at Long Yanting, who was so close yet exuded an aura of furious wrath, a glimmer of icy indignation flickered in my eyes. In the moments when my heart was deeply entwined with his, he cast me aside as if I were naught but a discarded object. Yet in my indifference, he pursued me relentlessly, this insufferable man. What on earth does he desire? Perhaps it was the hint of disdainful anger in my gaze that provoked Long Yanting. He reached out, his warm yet slightly rough hand caressing my delicate cheek, gradually trailing down to my neck, and suddenly he tightened his grip. Chapter 12. Have you fallen for him? I felt a tightening in my throat, a painful sound escaping my lips. My eyes widened like a fish gasping for air beneath a scorching sun. Long Yanting's fingers gradually tightened, the bloodthirsty coldness in his gaze unabashedly evident. I had never fathomed that this man could harbor such loathing for me, loathing that bordered on a desire to end my life. Although my disappointment had begun the moment he first questioned me, leading me to contemplate relinquishing this futile affection I clung to, witnessing his frigid, bloodthirsty demeanor now sent a shiver down my spine. My heart, frozen and numb from pain, had but a single gaping void, a hollow space that allowed the wind to seep through. Did he wish for me to grovel in abject humility once more? Never again. I would never stoop to that level. A cynical smile slowly curved my lips, my eyes dimmed to a lifeless gray as I gradually closed my eyelids. Suddenly, the grip around my neck loosened, and that suffocating sensation of near death vanished in an instant. Fresh air rushed into my throat, provoking a fit of desperate coughs. Cough, cough, cough. I clasped my chest, tears streaming down my face from the choking sensation, and in my peripheral vision, I caught a glimpse of Long Yanting appearing somewhat relieved. Would he genuinely be concerned? What a joke. Even if he cared, it would only be out of fear that I might die and taint him with murder's stain, shattering his promising future. Once I regained my breath, I was utterly exhausted, my body sliding down against the doorframe to the ground, my head tilted as I contemplated, my heart cold. Falling for such a man has rendered me nothing but a laughingstock. Long Yanting loomed above me, his thin lips pressed into a pale, straight line. Could he stop posing as the victim? So what if I had lost my innocence? He did not love me, huh? A bitter, self-mocking smile crept to my lips. Suddenly, Long Yanting yanked me up from the floor, his gaze locked onto the smile at the corner of my mouth. What are you laughing at? Because I find it amusing. I gazed up at him fearlessly, my smile deepening, tinged with a hint of playfulness. Sparks ignited in Long Yanting's eyes. Without warning, he leaned down, forcefully sealing my lips with his. The moment I regained my senses, I opened my mouth and bit down hard on his tongue. He winced in pain, releasing me as he gripped my shoulders tightly, his fingers digging in as if to crush my bones. The pain was excruciating. I defiantly tilted my head back, refusing to let the tears welling in my eyes spill over. A flicker of frustration crossed Long Yanting's gaze as he suddenly eased his grip. For a fleeting moment, he appeared bewildered and at a loss. Perhaps he had never anticipated that a woman, so humbly prostrated at his feet, would rise to resist him. After years of looking up to him, how could he possibly adapt to this shift? Yet, he did not comprehend the resolve of a woman whose heart had turned to stone. The depth of love breeds an equal measure of hatred, and this was merely a reflection of that truth. An enduring silence enveloped us, the air thick and oppressive, heavy enough to stifle a drop of water. The anger on Long Yanting's face gradually faded, revealing a tranquil gaze that held profound depths and concealed myriad emotions I could not comprehend. I was weary and disinclined to ponder further. Do you wish to go to work? He suddenly inquired. If I wished to go, would you acquiesce? I regarded Long Yanting, neither shaking my head nor nodding, merely allowing a sardonic smile to escape my lips. Anger flickered once more in his eyes. He drew closer, questioning. Do you long to see him? Indeed, I boldly confessed, silently forming the words with my lips, as I beheld the transformation of Long Yanting's striking features. His handsome visage gradually contorting with jealousy, I experienced an unprecedented sense of vindictive pleasure. Long Yanting's gaze remained fixated on me, his icy fury igniting with each passing moment. Have you fallen for him? He enunciated slowly, each word punctuated with a biting intensity. Chapter 13. Has Long Yanting lost his mind? Indeed, I unabashedly admit it. Long Yanting appeared as if struck by a blunt force to the back of his head, momentarily dazed. Seizing the opportunity, I pushed him aside and gestured in sign language. Since you do not love me, then whom I choose to love is of no concern to you. What does it matter to whom I relinquish my innocence? With that, I lifted my chin slightly, akin to a victorious rooster. A sense of unprecedented liberation surged within me. Long Yanting stared at me in disbelief for 2 seconds, his towering figure suddenly swaying, the once imposing aura dissipating into weariness. It dawned upon me that he actually understood the sign language I had just used. It was precisely because I believed he was oblivious to it that I felt free to express myself so recklessly, but now. A dull ache throbbed in my heart, as if struck by an unseen fist. This perplexing sensation was strange, yet I felt utterly powerless. Having resolved to no longer love him in a subservient manner, what did it matter if he misunderstood me? You shall not suffer for this man any longer. I firmly pinched myself, straightened my back, turned to the door, and stepped inside, slamming it shut with a resounding bang, severing the last vestige of my feelings for him. Upon exiting the room once more, I found the vast hall completely deserted. Had he finally succumbed to the temptation of yet another business trip? I hurriedly dashed towards the entrance, pushing the door with all my might, only to find it locked tight. Was he intent on imprisoning me? Let's not forget that my sister is still in this villa. Although she is in a vegetative state, she requires specialized care, and the doctor is scheduled to come tomorrow to replace her ventilator and nutrients. Has Long Yanting truly lost his mind? Despondently, I knocked twice on the door before turning back. As I walked, a sudden realization struck me. Long Yanting would never neglect my sister. The doctor would undoubtedly arrive tomorrow, providing me the chance to escape. My heart soared with joy as I made my way to the kitchen. The refrigerator was stocked with a plethora of fresh ingredients. Long Yanting does not cook. During these days of confinement, every meal had been takeout, which had become tiresome. Delighted, I selected a variety of items and swiftly prepared several home-cooked dishes. It wasn't until I finished the last dish and plated it that I realized, astonishingly, all the ingredients I chose were Long Yanting's favorites. In an instant, my excitement waned into despondency. It seems that certain things have long become habits, and to change them abruptly is indeed a formidable challenge. My gaze dimmed as I carried the completed dishes outside, also taking a pair of chopsticks with me. Upon returning with a bowl of rice, I was taken aback to find Long Yanting seated at the dining table, his back facing me, having appeared at some point. He was still home, but what did it matter? Holding the bowl of rice, I approached my seat with an indifferent expression. However, before I could sit down, Long Yanting unexpectedly picked up my chopsticks and deftly placed a piece of asparagus into his mouth, chewing with an elegance that was both swift and refined. I blinked in astonishment, glaring at him with a mix of surprise and annoyance. When did this man ever develop a taste for my cooking? Moreover, he was using my chopsticks. There was only a single pair, and I stood to the side, holding my rice bowl, utterly dumbfounded. Suddenly, Long Yanting reached over and took the bowl from my hands with an effortless motion, his expression exuding a sense of entitlement, as if it were a routine occurrence. This is mine. If he wants to eat, he should prepare it himself. I wanted to shout, but the words remained lodged in my throat, leaving me to shoot a resentful glare at the back of his head as I trudged back to the kitchen to retrieve another bowl and chopsticks. The meal progressed in an unusually quiet manner. Long Yanting seemed to possess an insatiable appetite today. Often, by the time I managed to pick up a piece of food, he had already devoured 2/3 of the dish. I yearned to rise and unleash a tirade upon him, demanding that he vacate the premises. Yet my long-standing habit of subservience and timidity compelled me to silently acquiesce, much like an ostrich burying its head in the sand. After the meal, Long Yanting lounged in his chair, casting a glance my way. Hurry up and wash the dishes. Once you're done, I'll take you out. His tone was so matter-of-fact that I felt an overwhelming urge to turn the bowl and clout him on the head. However, upon hearing the latter part of his statement, I felt deflated like a frostbitten cabbage. Resigned, I retreated into the kitchen to wash the dishes, hoping that Long Yanting would keep his word. True to his word, Long Yanting took me out, but to my surprise, We arrived at a rather upscale hair salon. I cast him a puzzled glance, my heart brimming with trepidation. What was this fellow up to? Surely, he wouldn't seek to exact revenge by transforming me into a sisterly figure, shaving my short hair into a bald head? A cheerful staff member approached, and Long Yanting handed over a box, his expression stern as he commanded, "Attach it for her." I stole a glance inside, and was taken aback to find a long hair I had secretly cut off that day. 3 hours later, I was restored to my former self, my long hair cascading down once more. I had become Roan Zishi again. Yet within my eyes, the innocence and softness had vanished forever. Chapter 14. I am his wife. After a week of confinement, I finally returned to my special school for work. In an unprecedented gesture, Long Yanting drove me there. As we arrived at the entrance, the handsome visage of Gu Tiannan came into view. Upon seeing me, his eyes brightened momentarily, a flicker of concern passing through his gaze. "Let me escort you inside." Long Yanting suddenly wrapped his arm around me, turning to shield me from Gu Tiannan's sight. My petite frame nestled against his broad chest, appearing warm and sweet to outsiders. Only I knew the force of his grip around my waist. Long Yanting walked briskly, as if eager to rid himself of something bothersome. Not wanting to create an awkward scene at the entrance, I followed his hurried pace inside. Upon reaching the office, I made my way to my desk, the corners of my lips curling into a cold, mocking smile. Was he truly worried about any association I might have with Gu Tiannan? If he was unashamed, he could continue to watch from afar. Long Yanting's icy gaze lingered on me for a moment before he finally turned and exited. The moment he left, I sensed the air in the office became significantly more refreshing. "Zishi, are you all right?" I looked up at the voice. It was Gu Tiannan. I was unaware that he had entered and was now standing beside me, his eyes radiating a gentle warmth. I smiled at him, responding, "I'm fine." Gu Tiannan scrutinized me from head to toe, his gaze softening further. "Zishi, you truly look more beautiful with long hair." His voice carried a hint of concealed affection, as pure as wine. Yet, when his eyes drifted to my neck, a flash of pain crossed his features, and they narrowed dangerously. Before I could ponder the meaning behind that fleeting expression, I instinctively covered my neck in embarrassment. That night, Long Yanting had been excessively harsh, even after a week. Faint bruises lingered on my neck. Gu Tiannan suddenly clenched his fists, his voice rising with fury. "I will confront him." I hastily grabbed his arm, shaking my head vigorously. "No, please don't go." "Why not? That scoundrel. How dare he bully you?" Gu Tiannan growled, resembling a wounded beast. I gazed at him earnestly, then slowly formed a sentence in sign language. "I am his wife." In other words, what he did to me was nothing short of his entitlement. Gu Tiannan's expression darkened instantly. He abruptly shook off my hand and swung a punch against the office wall. With a thud, 5 crimson imprints appeared on the pristine white wall. "Gu Tiannan," I exclaimed in panic, noticing his bloodied knuckles, a sight that sent chills down my spine. "How could you do this?" I recalled this gentleman who had never exhibited such extreme behavior. Now, he seemed as ruthless as Long Yanting. Gu Tiannan glanced back at my contorted face, a fleeting smile of self-mockery crossing his pale features. "Don't worry, I'm fine." How could he possibly be fine after sustaining such injuries? Just as I was about to persuade him to seek medical attention, he abruptly lifted his legs and swiftly departed. I stood there, gazing blankly at Gu Tiannan's retreating figure, my heart a tumult of emotions. From childhood to the present, Gu Tiannan had always been like an older brother, steadfastly guarding me. I recall the days when I was unable to speak. Long Yanting relentlessly urged me to utter a word, scolding me with every gesture. Yet, Gu Tiannan discreetly taught me sign language, refraining from speaking himself, allowing us to communicate silently, which brought me comfort and a sense of reliance. Alas, everything changed as we matured. Long Yanting, who harbored feelings for my sister, married me, while the once inseparable brothers, Gu Tiannan and Long Yanting, inexplicably became adversaries. As I exited the school gate after work, I spotted Long Yanting's car waiting for me. His expression was stern as he gripped the steering wheel, not sparing me a glance, merely issuing a curt and authoritative command. "Get in." Complying, I settled into the car, and, upon glancing up, noticed through the rearview mirror that Gu Tiannan's vehicle was trailing behind us, while Long Yanting's lips curled into a faint, chilling smirk. It became evident that his intent to chauffeur me to and from work was solely to guard against Gu Tiannan. Chapter 15. The Child? Terminate it immediately. Life had become rather monotonous. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. One afternoon, as I approached the entrance of the dining hall, the greasy aroma wafting from within unexpectedly made me feel nauseous. I opened my mouth to vomit, and before I knew it, I fainted. When I regained consciousness, I found myself staring at a pristine white ceiling. Outside, I could hear faint voices. "Young Master Long, congratulations. The young madam is pregnant. Here is her examination report." Pregnant? Slowly, I placed my hand on my flat abdomen, unable to articulate the whirlwind of emotions within me. Surprise, joy, worry. It was all so overwhelmingly complex. Just when I had completely lost hope in Long Yanting, heaven bestowed upon me such a precious gift. Despite the month of Cold War following the incident where he had confined me against my will, I had thought my heart was long dead. Yet now, with the arrival of this new life, it flickered back to life. Would Long Yanting be pleased? Anxiously, I strained to listen. However, apart from a nurse's earlier statement, I heard not a whisper from Long Yanting. My heart sank a little further. Long Yanting, it matters not if you do not care for me, but the child is yours. After a prolonged silence, heavy footsteps echoed in the room. I sat up and lifted my gaze towards the entrance, where Long Yanting entered with a grim expression. His demeanor was icy, his eyes indifferent, each step heavy with disdain, as if he wished to trample me into the ground, turning me into mere dust. Instinctively, I recoiled, a foreboding feeling creeping into my heart. Sure enough, as Long Yanting halted before me and noticed I was awake, his gaze turned cold, and he uttered two chilling words, "Terminated." I was taken aback, but he immediately added, "Immediately." I couldn't. Even a tiger would not harm its young. How could he justify ending his own child's life? I silently screamed in protest, my anger boiling over. A peculiar expression crossed Long Yanting's face, his icy, mocking gaze piercing me like daggers, mercilessly dissecting my very being. "Rong Zishi, do you dare claim this is my child? If memory serves me right, I only encountered you a month ago, and today marks precisely 31 days. Long Yanting growled, forcefully slamming the crumpled examination report against my face. I picked up the report and opened it, revealing the words, "Early pregnancy 7. 8 weeks. Approximately 45 days." From a moment I had disguised myself as his sister and stealthily entered his room. Hadn't it been 45 days? Yet Long Yanting did not believe me. He had never believed me. So why should I reveal the truth to him? A bitter smile curled at my lips as I slowly raised my gaze to meet his. "I want this child, because he is mine too. You shall not take him. I will not allow that scoundrel Gu Tiannan to raise my child. Do not forget, you're my wife, Long Yanting." He roared, fury igniting two blazing fires in his eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, he seized my arm and yanked me from the bed, dragging me toward the door. I struggled desperately against him, fully aware of his intent to take me to terminate the pregnancy. Despite having been deeply wounded by him time and again, I yearned to hold on to at least one family member connected by blood. Infuriated by my resistance, Long Yanting tightened his grip and quickened his pace. How could I possibly withstand his strength? In the blink of an eye, I found myself at the threshold. Panic surged within me as I grasped the doorframe, clinging fiercely, even as my nails dug into my flesh, drawing blood. I refused to relinquish my hold. Observing my reckless defiance, a cruel glint flickered in his gaze, and after a long silence, he commanded darkly, "Let us return home." Chapter 16. How is it that you have the leisure to congratulate us? I released my grip, my 5 bloodied fingers trembling, utterly devoid of strength. Long Yanting continued to pull me along briskly, not towards the operating room, but out of the hospital lobby, making a beeline for the parking lot. I followed in his wake, panting heavily, a dull ache beginning to throb in my lower abdomen. That scoundrel! Was he intending to exhaust me to the point of miscarriage? I protested, fiercely shaking off his hand, yet I could not break free. Long Yanting glanced back at me, and upon seeing my pale complexion as I clutched my abdomen, he finally slowed his pace. Suddenly, a sports car screeched to a halt before us, and Gu Tiannan's anxious visage appeared, his eyes scanning me with concern. Zishi, I heard you were unwell. Long Yanting suddenly wrapped his arm around my waist, pulling me tightly against his chest, a wicked smile curling upon his lips as he inquired. Isn't young Master Gu busy presiding over a board meeting at Gues? How do you find the time to come and congratulate us? Congratulations? Gu Tiannan appeared somewhat bewildered, casting a puzzled glance between us. Indeed, Long Yanting's smirk deepened. Zishi is not merely ill, she is expecting. With that, he tilted his head and bestowed a fleeting kiss upon my forehead. A chill coursed through me. This rogue, he was clearly doubting the paternity of the child, yet was now feigning affection before Gu Tiannan. I lowered my gaze, unable to meet Gu Tiannan's pale, crestfallen face, only to hear his gentle voice above me. Then I truly must congratulate you both. However, since Zishi is with child, you must take good care of her. Long Yanting arrogantly raised his chin. My wife, naturally I know how to care for. In that fleeting moment as we brushed past, I distinctly saw Gu Tiannan's clenched fists and the pain reflected in his eyes. My heart jolted, a sudden realization dawning upon me. His affections had long transcended the ordinary. Had I recognized this sooner and distanced myself from him, would he not have been so wounded? Now that I was irrevocably ensnared, why drag another into my suffering? With this thought, I tilted my head, feigning weakness as I leaned against Long Yanting's embrace, deliberately avoiding Gu Tiannan's gaze. Perhaps pleased by my demeanor, Long Yanting's expression softened slightly, and his grip on my waist loosened a fraction. As I entered the car, he even diligently opened the door for me, shielding my head with his hand. I understood that all of this was merely a performance for Gu Tiannan's benefit. Indeed, as the door shut, the atmosphere within the car turned stiflingly cold. Are you not yearning to leap into Gu Tiannan's embrace right now? The reflection in the rearview mirror captured the sinister curve of Long Yanting's smile. I wearily closed my eyes, choosing to ignore him. Suddenly, Long Yanting pressed the accelerator with great force, and the ostentatious, domineering sports car darted forward like an arrow released from its bow. The fierce wind howled past my ears, accompanied by the cacophony of honking horns, screeching brakes, and the sounds of vehicles swerving in all directions. I fought to suppress the turmoil in my stomach, my face pale, eyes tightly shut, and biting my lip, I clutched the seatbelt with all my might. The more he sought to disrupt my pregnancy, the stronger and braver I resolved to be. I must not allow him to succeed. With a sudden screech of brakes, the immense inertia propelled me forward, only to be yanked back violently by the seatbelt, causing me to crash against the back of the seat. Unable to hold on any longer, I recklessly flung open the car door and, turning my head, expelled the contents of my stomach into the outside world. By the time I regained my composure, my entire back was soaked with cold sweat, and my face was as pale as a sheet. As I caught sight of the villa's entrance before me, I staggered out of the car. Under Long Yanting's piercing gaze, I took out the medication prescribed by the doctor to support my pregnancy and, in front of him, swallowed it dry. The bitterness slid down my throat. The pill lodged uncomfortably within, causing tears to well up in my eyes. Yet, as I tilted my head back and forced the tablet down, I resolutely swallowed back the tears that threatened to spill over. Chapter 17. The intertwining of ice and fire. Long Yanting cast a penetrating glance at my stubborn demeanor before turning and striding towards home. A victorious smile crept onto my lips as I staggered inside. But the moment I crossed the threshold, I could no longer maintain my composure and collapsed onto the sofa without a second thought. I thought to myself, at last, I have triumphed in this battle. However, in reality, Long Yanting's torment was only just beginning. Before I could even catch my breath, Long Yanting stood before me, commanding from his elevated position. Come to the study and assist me. He had always kept his business affairs separate from me. What could I possibly contribute? A sense of confusion brewed within, yet I dragged my weary body inside. After all, as a pregnant woman, I lacked the energy to engage in a battle of wits with him. Upon entering the study, Long Yanting made himself comfortable in the grand chair. tossing a thick stack of documents onto the table before me, and expressionlessly instructed, "I need this proposal completed tonight. I will require it tomorrow." I stole a glance at the cover page, which read Longting Group third quarter budget. Such matters. I could only manage a bitter smile and shake my head, indicating my inability to assist. Long Yanting raised an eyebrow. "ZE managed to complete it in 2 hours. I have granted you an entire evening. Is it too much to ask?" "Too much." My sister, a master in this field once hailed as the budgeting expert of Longting, needed 2 hours to finish. And here I was, someone entirely unacquainted with financial matters. Even a month would not suffice for me to produce such a document. This was an unreasonable demand. I picked up a pen and scrawled 3 words on a sticky note. "I cannot." A flicker of amusement passed through Long Yanting's eyes as he spoke in an unexpectedly gentle tone. "You can always learn." How infuriating. His insolent demeanor made my hands and feet feel icy. Why should I be compelled to accept his unreasonable demands? I tossed the pen aside and turned to leave. Just as I reached the door, his cold voice echoed from behind. "If you can produce this budget tonight, I will allow you to keep the child." How dare he? The decision of whether my child stays or goes is mine alone. After a brief pause, I did not look back but resolutely stepped out. The sound of a heavy object crashing to the ground reverberated behind me. Later that evening, freshly washed and emerging from the bathroom, I suddenly sensed something amiss. Raising my head, I found Long Yanting leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, his deep, dark eyes fixed on me with unwavering intensity. That gaze resembled that of a predatory leopard, glimmering with a dangerous light. Having had a profound experience of his harsh treatment before, I was all too aware of what such a look signified. I clutched my towel tightly and cautiously stepped back. Perhaps my defensive posture incited Long Yanting's ire. As his expression darkened, his narrowed eyes glinting dangerously as he strode towards me with purpose, I continued to retreat until my back collided forcefully against the cold wall, leaving me with no avenue for escape. Long Yanting loomed over me, his gaze imposing. Suddenly, he reached out and seized my bath towel. In his gaze, a tumultuous interplay of ice and fire ignited. "No!" I clutched the intertwining fabric of the towel desperately, struggling to preserve the remnants of my dignity. "What? Do you not wish for my touch any longer?" Long Yanting let out a soft scoff, inching closer to me, breathing into my ear. "I distinctly recall the times when you would go to great lengths to enter my room, yearning to be with me. Enough!" I felt as though I were being publicly stripped bare, shame forcing my eyes shut. Indeed, I had once coveted his affection, even resorting to the guise of an elder sister to pursue him. But that was in the past. With a swift motion, Long Yanting seized the opportunity while I was distracted. The sudden chill rendered me utterly mortified, and I hastily crossed my arms over my chest, trembling uncontrollably. "What do you intend to guard with this fa-ade of chastity?" Long Yanting's voice turned icy as he questioned, abruptly releasing my arm and yanking me backward. In a dizzying whirl, I was thrust onto the bed behind me. Before I could comprehend the situation, Long Yanting's imposing figure, accompanied by an overwhelming aura of coldness, had already encroached upon me. Chapter 18. Should you not fulfill your duties as a wife? No, please no. I curled my body to protect my abdomen, desperately trying to evade him, but Long Yanting leaned over and restrained me, rendering me immobile. I averted my gaze, unwilling to confront the ruthless expression that adorned his face. With one hand, he seized my wrists above my head, while the other began to ignite a fiery trail along my waist. As he leaned closer, his thin lips descended upon my delicate neck, biting down mercilessly. A sharp pain shot through me. Oh, how it hurt! My heart ached even more. I bit my lip, inhaling sharply, but tears unbidden blurred my vision. Why? Was it so unbearable simply because the man before me was not Gu Tianan? Rong Zishi, have you forgotten? I am your husband. Today, I shall show you precisely how your husband loves you. By the end of his proclamation, Long Yanting's voice bore a hint of bloodthirsty ferocity. He forcefully turned my face towards him, compelling me to meet his gaze, my tear-streaked visage laid bare before him. Long Yanting paused, his fingers chilled, momentarily taken aback, a flicker of defeat crossing his eyes. Perhaps my tearful countenance was too distasteful for him, as he halted, regarding me with a mocking stare. His expression was devoid of warmth, cold and indifferent. Seizing the moment, I recoiled slightly, half sitting up, watching him with wariness and defiance. The icy fury in Long Yanting's eyes ignited, burning fiercely. "Do not treat me this way. Do not push me to hate you," I cried out in desperation, opening my mouth, yet no sound escaped. Therefore, disregarding his disdain, I resorted to sign language, gesturing emphatically. "Long Yanting, spare my child. He is your child too." Long Yanting's gaze flickered, a subtle shift in his demeanor hinting at a slight softening. I hastily added, "I have already told you. There is nothing between Gutian and me." The corners of Long Yanting's lips unexpectedly curved into a charming smile. "Do you think that by employing such tactics, you can escape tonight? Zishi, do not forget, you are my wife. We have been married for 3 years. Should you not fulfill your obligations as a wife?" His voice suddenly softened, the final note rising slightly, imbued with endless allure as he inched closer to me. "No, please no." I swiftly retreated to the head of the bed, clutching a large bundle of blankets, opposing him with all my might. The icy embers of rage rekindled in Long Yanting's eyes, smoldering with intensity. "No, this cannot happen. The doctor has warned that the pregnancy is unstable, particularly in its early stages. If he were to, it is absolutely forbidden." Gazing at the subtle smile playing on Long Yanting's lips, realization struck me. Tonight, he was deliberate. He intended to use this brutal and humiliating method to terminate my child. Cold sweat broke out in layers upon my forehead. I fought to suppress the overwhelming chill and tremors coursing through me, my tear-filled eyes pleading with Long Yanting as I gestured, begging him. "Yanting, please spare me and the child. This baby truly belongs to you. I dare to swear to the heavens that, apart from you, I have not allowed any other man to touch me. Allow me to bring this child into the world, as if I were giving birth for you and my sister. My sister and I are identical twins. The child we bear will share our genes." As I concluded my final statement, Long Yanting's icy gaze suddenly trembled. A prolonged silence ensued. I lifted my face, gazing at him with eager anticipation. Long Yanting let out a soft laugh, nodding slightly, affirming, "Indeed, that is a splendid idea." His eyes swept over my pallid visage, and he even bestowed upon me a rare smile, his demeanor unexpectedly gentle. In that moment, I felt akin to a soul nearing death and darkness, catching a glimmer of hope's dawn. My eyes sparkled with newfound light. Yet, in the very next second, Chapter 19, the final effort, then hurry and deal with this child. Let us conceive another together. The gentle tone, the tender coaxing, resembled the softest of sweet nothings. Yet the very words sent chills through me. He still does not believe me. I took a deep breath, preparing for one last attempt. "Long Yanting, the child is truly yours." That day gazing into Long Yanting's eyes, filled with cold ridicule, I suddenly found myself at a loss for words. How could I confess to this man the most humiliating act I had ever committed? More crucially, if he were to discover that I had secretly orchestrated our encounter to conceive this child, would he not cast me aside and terminate this pregnancy without a second thought? In that fleeting moment of hesitation, Long Yanting reached out to me once more. His long, bony fingers grasped the edge of the blanket. I clung desperately to the other end, resisting fiercely as we engaged in a tug-of-war. It felt as though he was deliberately punishing me, exerting force little by little, gradually exposing my bare body from beneath the thin blanket. "Do not force me like this." As the blanket slipped away to nearly nothing, a sudden calm washed over me. I released my grip, lifted my gaze to meet Long Yanting's icy stare, and boldly gestured, "Do not come any closer. I choose to negotiate." Long Yanting paused, holding the blanket, his expression darkening. I gestured urgently. "You promised that if I presented the budget tonight, you would spare my child." His cold gaze sliced through my face like a blade. He likely did not expect that, at this juncture, I would still seek to evade him, using his own words against him. Silence enveloped us, the air thick and suffocating. I forced myself to remain composed, straightening my back. After what felt like an eternity, Long Yanting's lips parted, uttering one word, "Fine." He then released the blanket and strode out of the room. I collapsed onto the blanket, utterly drained, as if I had fought a great battle. Within a minute, however, I rose swiftly, hastily donning my robe, and hurried towards the study. For the sake of my child, no matter the difficulty, I must persevere. The study was brightly lit in the dead of night. I doubt anyone else preparing a budget was as unprepared as I, needing to consult Baidu for a template. The data was a jumbled mess, dizzying to behold. I was utterly unfamiliar with Long Yanting's affairs. Often, I would spend ages searching for a single piece of information. Gradually, the numbers before me began to blur, even splitting into doubles. 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros. Finally, I collapsed onto the table, my mind blank. When I awoke again, the brilliant sunlight pierced my eyes painfully. Oh no, dawn had broken. Long Yanting would surely come to claim my child's life. Just as I was lost in thought, Long Yanting's towering figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the morning light, his chiseled features resembling that of a celestial being. At that moment, I found myself utterly incapable of appreciating his striking appearance. My trembling gaze fixated upon his hands. Long Yanting held a steaming cup of milk, evoking vivid imagery from numerous palace intrigue dramas. Do not come near. I refuse. I sprang to my feet, my mind consumed by a singular thought: escape. However, after sitting still for an entire evening, my legs had long since fallen numb. As I took a step forward, my body lurched precipitously ahead. Zishi, Long Yanting called out, and perhaps due to my hallucinations, I discerned a hint of urgency in his voice. In that dizzying moment, as I opened my eyes, I indeed saw his reflection mirrored in my gaze. Long Yanting dashed to my side, swiftly catching me before I could fall, and brought the cup of milk to my lips. You are experiencing low blood sugar. Drink, he insisted. Liar. There must be abortifacients in there. I resolutely pressed my lips together, turning my face away. With a swift motion, I knocked the milk from his hands, sending the glass crashing to the ground. Chapter 20. No more meetings with him. The voice of Rong Zishi resonated with fury, unmistakably a manifestation of embarrassment turned anger. In that moment, an inexplicable surge of strength coursed through me, prompting me to shove Long Yanting aside and flee towards the exit. However, the instant my foot touched the ground, I felt a sharp pain as jagged shards of glass pierced my soul. Rong Zishi, you fool! Long Yanting's thunderous roar echoed behind me, reverberating painfully in my ears. The excruciating agony in my foot nearly sent me into a dizzying state. Yet a singular thought consumed my mind. Run. I had to escape. I could not allow him to take my child from me. Ignoring the torment in my feet, I sprinted barefoot across the field of glass shards towards the door. Just a few steps into my flight, I stumbled, crashing to the ground. In that fleeting moment, Long Yanting's blurred, handsome face loomed before me, his furious voice ringing in my ears. Rong Zishi, are you throwing your life away? Long Yanting, I ultimately failed to escape your grasp. As I descended into an abyss of darkness, 2 tears slipped from the corners of my eyes. It felt as though I had wandered into an interminable dream, one where countless hands tore my body, as if seeking to rend me into countless fragments. Before me, a sea of crimson engulfed my vision, and my child waved a tiny hand amidst the river of blood. Child! My child! I screamed and struggled, yet no sound escaped my lips. Panic surged within me, and I kicked out with all my might, abruptly opening my eyes. What met my gaze was a blinding expanse of white. Where was I? Could this be what heaven looked like? But how could someone like me ever enter paradise? Dazed, I blinked and slowly turned my head until I spotted the cold drip of an four bag hovering above me. And it dawned on me that I had been brought to the hospital. A figure emerged in my blurred vision, gradually coming into focus. It was Long Yanting. Instinctively, I grasped the blanket before me, pain evident in my eyes. That despicable man. He had taken my child. Long Yanting looked down at me, a faint smirk playing at the corners of his lips. Your child is still here, he stated coldly, his words devoid of warmth, save for that one sentence. It took me a moment to comprehend his words. What? The child is still here? Surely, he must be deceiving me. I gazed at Long Yanting with skepticism, yet he offered nothing but indifference in return. Tentatively, I reached down to touch my abdomen, where I felt no abnormalities. Relief washed over me, and I withdrew my hand from the blanket, extending it towards Long Yanting, my thumb curving in gratitude. "Thank you." A fleeting, inscrutable expression crossed Long Yanting's face as he regarded me. Then he spoke. "You may keep this child, but I have one condition from this day forth. You must resign from your position as a sign language teacher and cease all contact with Gu Tianan." I lifted my gaze to scrutinize Long Yanting's unwavering expression. His eyes filled with resolute determination. It was evident that this was his final ultimatum. "Very well." I nodded in agreement. In truth, I cherished my role as a sign language instructor, for there, many individuals shared my experiences. Although our communication was predominantly silent, the mutual tolerance and understanding fostered an environment in which I felt genuinely at ease. However, now, for the sake of my child, I must learn to let go. Perhaps, once I become a mother, the dynamic between Long Yanting and myself will inevitably evolve. After contemplating this, I couldn't help but scorn myself. At this juncture, I still could not relinquish my feelings for this man. Long Yanting turned and retrieved a sheet of paper from his briefcase, presenting it to me. "Then sign it," he urged. To my astonishment, he had already prepared my resignation letter. The reason for my departure was stated as my pregnancy, necessitating a peaceful environment for nurturing the child and preparing for childbirth at home. With a bitter smile, I signed my name on the document. "I will submit it at school tomorrow," I noted on a nearby sticky note, and it would also serve as a farewell to Gu Tianan. It seemed Long Yanting could see through my thoughts as his icy gaze swept over my feet, and he scoffed, "Are you certain you can go?" Following his gaze, I realized my feet were wrapped as if they were dumplings. Indeed, before fainting, I had stepped on shards of glass. The pain felt like countless needles piercing my heart. Long Yanting observed my complexion swiftly drain of color and remarked coldly, "I will have my assistant deliver it. Do not forget, aside from your resignation, there is one condition. You must not meet Gu Tianan again." Chapter 21. A secret never to be revealed due to injuries inflicted by shards of glass on my feet. I spent a week in the hospital before I could barely manage to stand. Long Yanting accompanied me throughout that week, even going so far as to have his assistant deliver work documents back and forth. The doctors and nurses observed this and were filled with envy. However, only I understood that Long Yanting's presence was less about companionship and more about surveillance. Each day, he sat coldly in a corner of the ward. Without even a glance in my direction, he was convinced that I had engaged in indiscretions with Gu Tianan, thus preventing any possibility of contact between us. Several times, I longed to explain the situation regarding the child, yet I could never muster the courage to speak. Let him continue to harbor his misunderstandings. This was his punishment for having disregarded me for 3 years. I couldn't help but think maliciously, and my mood unexpectedly brightened. "Let us go," a cold voice echoed above me. I looked up to see Long Yanting's frosty visage. My wounds, still barely scabbed, and he expected me to leave? This pain was akin to the little mermaid dancing upon sharp blades. I furrowed my brow slightly, but slowly extended my foot to the ground. Ouch! A wheelchair tumbled before me. Long Yanting snapped. "Now you feel pain?" I understood this was not the time to be stubborn, so I obediently settled into the wheelchair and inquired, "Where to?" "Discharge," Long Yanting replied curtly, and fell silent thereafter. He pushed me outside with a heavy-handedness, as if suppressing a raging fire within. Gripping my electronic writing pad in one hand and clinging tightly to the armrest of the chair with the other, I resigned myself to whatever he desired, as long as the child was well. Upon exiting the hospital, I inadvertently turned my head and thought I glimpsed a familiar figure at the corner, resembling Gu Tianan. Startled, I intended to look closer, but Long Yanting had already maneuvered the wheelchair around, his tall frame blocking my view. "What? Waiting for someone?" His indifferent tone carried a note of undisguised mockery. Since the moment I became a mother, he had spoken to me in such a manner. I pressed my lips together and, silently, withdrew my gaze. Arriving home, I noticed 2 burly bodyguards standing at the entrance, clad in black suits, resembling silent sentinels. A middle-aged woman stepped forward. "Young master, is the young mistress back?" Long Yanting lifted me and the wheelchair together placing us on the lawn. Zhangma, the house is in your hands now. Watching Long Yanting turn and drive away swiftly, I found it difficult to articulate my feelings. Zhangma approached to push me. Young mistress, shall we head inside? At the entrance, the bodyguards bowed in unison greetings. Young mistress. I managed a slight smile, yet a profound chill settled within my heart. Long Yanting's life was one that preferred solitude. After 3 years of marriage, I had merely been his caretaker. Aside from the regular visits from the doctors and nurses who attended to my sister, there had never been a third person in the villa. Now he has surprisingly summoned a nanny and a bodyguard from the Long family. Should I marvel at the elevation of my status? If he has never harbored affection for me, why then does he obsess over my relationship with Gu Tianan, taking such precautions? Most importantly, Gu Tianan and I have indeed done nothing. Gazing at this opulent prison, a malicious smile unexpectedly graced my lips. Long Yanting, I shall never divulge this to you. You shall remain forever ignorant of this secret. Zhangma, please escort me to the room at the far right on the 3rd floor. I scribbled on the writing board. That room belongs to my sister. Since I carry Long Yanting's child, regardless of the circumstances, I feel compelled to visit her. Upon arrival, I instructed Zhangma, you wait here. However, a look of concern crossed Zhang Ma's face. I'm sorry, young madam, but the young master has instructed me to not leave your side for even a moment. This overseer is indeed diligent in her duties. I scoffed inwardly, disregarding her, and pushed the door open. Sister, I am so sorry. As I surveyed the empty room, astonishment rendered me speechless, and I turned to Zhang Ma. Where's my sister? Zhang Ma bowed her head and replied, Young madam, the young master said that there are suddenly 2 patients at home, and they could not manage. So Miss Z has been sent to a specialized sanatorium. Unable to manage? I suspect it is more likely that he fears I might seize the opportunity to harm her. Chapter 22. The first time he held me, Long Yanting's departure lasted an entire week. 2 months into my pregnancy, the early symptoms began to manifest. My morning sickness was severe. I could not even tolerate plain water without retching. In just a few days, I had lost a significant amount of weight. My complexion pale as parchment, my limbs weak, and my mind clouded. Young madam, please try to eat something. At this rate, not only will you suffer, but the child will, Zhang Ma implored gently, presenting a bowl of congee and side dishes. I understood that if this continued, even if I managed to carry the baby to term, it would be malnourished. So, after taking a deep breath, I grasped the bowl and resolutely drank it down with eyes closed. The slippery congee churned in my stomach upon entry. I swallowed with great effort, enduring the discomfort, and took another large gulp. Endure it. One more sip. Suddenly, I could not hold on any longer and vomited all the congee, clutching my chest as I heaved uncontrollably. Young madam, Zhang Ma hastily set the bowl aside and began to pat my back. A pool of yellowish-brown liquid emerged. I was even expelling bile. What are you doing? A thunderous voice echoed from the doorway. I lifted my gaze slightly to see Long Yanting's towering figure storming in, seizing Zhang Ma by the wrist and throwing her to the ground. He then turned, swept me into his arms, and held me close. This was the first time Long Yanting had held me. Caught off guard, the remnants of saliva at the corner of my lips smeared against his chest. Long Yanting glanced at my pale and frail appearance before turning to Zhang Ma. His voice as frigid as ice. Is this how you care for her in my absence? I quickly grabbed Long Yanting's arm, struggling to gesture. It's not Zhang Ma's fault. It's my own weakness. Silence. Long Yanting shot me a fierce glare before directing his icy gaze back at Zhang Ma. She shrank back, rising slowly. Report to young master. Young madam is experiencing severe morning sickness and cannot keep anything down. Long Yanting's anger flared further. Did you not think to take her to the hospital? But you said she must not go out when you left. Zhang Ma suddenly realized her slip of the tongue and lowered her head, refraining from further speech. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Even though Long Yanting's embrace was warm, I felt an overwhelming chill. He stiffened momentarily before abruptly returning me to the wheelchair and turning to leave. I watched his hurried figure retreating like the wind, sensing that his return was uncharacteristic, especially in that fleeting moment when he lifted me. His anxious and protective demeanor left my heart in disarray. As Long Yanting ascended halfway up the staircase, He turned back to Zhang Ma. Are you not going to tidy up for her? Gazing at the disdain etched on Long Yanting's handsome face. The flicker of sweetness that had blossomed in my heart was instantly washed away, leaving no trace behind. Half an hour later, Zhang Ma pushed me out the door. The scratch on my foot has indeed healed. However, the relentless morning sickness has rendered my body exceedingly frail, leaving me devoid of any strength to walk. Thus, I find myself still reliant on a wheelchair. There are 5 or 6 steps at the entrance of the villa, and Zhang Ma cast a hesitant glance at my abdomen. I understood her concern. She feared that carrying me, as she had done upon my return, might endanger the child. If I were to ask one of the bodyguard to carry me down, it would surely incite the wrath of Long Yanting. After all, no matter how unappreciated I may feel, I am still his woman, the rightful young mistress of the Long family. I offered Zhang Ma a faint smile and extended my hand to her, signaling that I could manage to walk down on my own. With her assistance, I unsteadily rose, feeling a wave of dizziness wash over me. Zhang Ma looked at me with concern. Young mistress. I reassured her with a nod and a smile, conveying my determination. Just as I was about to take a step, I heard the steady sound of footsteps approaching from behind. I turned my head to see. Chapter 23. In the name of caring, Long Yanting had changed into a tailored suit that accentuated his tall and slender figure as he descended the stairs. Was he in a hurry to leave again? I instinctively moved aside, not wishing to obstruct his swift departure. Long Yanting's expression was icy, his handsome visage seemingly coated with a thin layer of frost. He strode purposefully towards me, not sparing a glance in my direction. Just as he reached me, he suddenly halted, bent down, and effortlessly swept me into his arms. Startled, I instinctively clutched his neck. As I became aware of the intimate nature of our position, my cheeks flushed with warmth. Long Yanting appeared unfazed by the situation, carrying me with long strides down the steps and placing me gently in the car. At the moment he opened the door, he turned to Zhang Ma and coldly instructed, "You need not follow us." Seated in the passenger seat, I obediently fastened my seatbelt and stole a glance at Long Yanting's stern profile. It dawned on me that he was taking me to the hospital. A feeling of secret delight, laced with a subtle sweetness, began to unfurl within me. Long Yanting, why do you always provide me with a glimmer of hope just when I am ready to give up on you? Do you not realize how excruciating this torment is? It is akin to a person clinging precariously to a cliff, on the brink of being pulled up, only to be cruelly let down again. My eyes moistened, and I lowered my gaze, allowing my lashes to conceal the sorrow within my heart. Long Yanting seemed to catch a glimpse of me, slowing the car's speed. Upon arriving at the hospital, he carried me directly into the elevator, ascending to the top-tier VIP room. It was then that I learned he had arranged for a specialist appointment on my behalf. The expectant mothers queuing in the corridor cast envious glances my way. Yet only I understood that Long Yanting's booking was merely a matter of expediency. More importantly, he wished to avoid the embarrassment of waiting in public with me. As for carrying me, I surmised that had I possessed even a modicum of strength to ascend the stairs, he would have promptly set me down. The intricate procedures of prenatal examinations unfolded, with Long Yanting silently observing, his handsome countenance darkened with discontent. The specialists, perplexed by his demeanor, conducted their examinations with extreme caution and meticulous detail. "Young Master Long, young madam, your child is very healthy." Upon hearing the final verdict, I exhaled softly, instinctively placing my hand on my abdomen. Yet I dared not lift my gaze to meet Long Yanting's expression. And what about her? Look at her current state. Long Yanting suddenly erupted in a fit of anger, leaving the specialists bewildered and at a loss for words. After a brief silence, my attending physician spoke. Early pregnancy nausea varies from person to person. Typically, most pregnant women find relief after 3 months, and symptoms usually dissipate on their own. 3 months? Do you understand that she is vomiting even from plain water? By the time 3 months pass, she will have starved to death. Long Yanting was seething with rage, his furious roar echoing through the otherwise silent corridor. The doctor flinched, suggesting we could administer some antiemetics and intravenous nutrition. "Make it quick," Long Yanting coldly interrupted. The doctors surrounding me immediately sprang into action. A nurse approaching to administer the 4 cast a furtive glance at the tempestuous Long Yanting and, blushing, whispered to me enviously, "Young madam, you are so fortunate." It is said that in such affluent families, the focus is primarily on the child, yet young Master Long. Just look at how much he cares for you. Even his anger is so striking. Perhaps realizing her enthusiasm was excessive, the nurse quickly silenced herself, lowering her head in embarrassment. I smiled faintly, embodying the poise expected of a young madam. Yet internally, I felt an emptiness, as if the air were escaping from a punctured vessel. Long Yanting certainly did not care about the child, for he had never believed that this child was his. Concern for me? Huh. He was merely using his feigned concern as a means to vent his pent-up fury. Chapter 24. Is it merely out of sympathy? After receiving the nutrient infusion, I felt a semblance of strength returning to my body. As I departed the hospital room, Long Yanting closed his notebook and approached me for an embrace. Embarrassed by the presence of numerous doctors and nurses, I shyly pushed him away. In an instant, his expression darkened, and he turned on his heel, striding away. I, dragging my weak frame, slowly made my way out, only to find Long Yanting waiting for me at the door, his back turned. My eyes suddenly moistened. Did he harbor some compassion for me, even if it was merely out of pity? Soon, I realized how naive I was. In the expansive corridor, many expectant mothers and their families awaited their prenatal checkups. Perhaps it was Long Yanting's striking features and demeanor that drew everyone's gaze. They collectively stared, unable to look away. Long Yanting's thick brows furrowed slightly as he cast a sidelong glance at me, a flicker of impatience hidden in his icy eyes. I understood instantly. Adopting a fade of happiness, I smiled brightly and linked my arm with his, leaning my frail form closely against him. A satisfied smirk graced Long Yanting's lips as he led me outside. Isn't that the young master and mistress of the Long family? What a perfect match. Look at how busy Long Xiao is, yet he personally accompanies his wife for a prenatal checkup. What a good man. The voices of admiration and envy echoed around us. Yet I maintained a composed smile, while my heart felt as cold as ice. Long Yanting had always been indifferent towards me. When had he started to care about his reputation? Once we were out of sight, I instinctively released my grip on Long Yanting's arm. He halted, casting a cold glance my way, an expression of displeasure flickering across his features. However, he ultimately said nothing and resumed his forward stride. Was he unable to maintain the charade any longer? I silently scoffed, trailing behind him. Thanks to that bottle of nutrient solution, I was finally able to walk on my own. Otherwise, it would have been quite awkward to be left behind. "Young Master Long," a melodious voice chimed, accompanied by a waft of fragrant air. I glanced up, only to find Ling Fei, adorned like a vibrant butterfly, carrying a large bag and smiling radiantly at Long Yanting. What was her purpose here? I shot her a wary glance, not forgetting her infatuation with him. Ling Fei opened the bag, her demeanor overly eager. "Young Master Long, this is what you wanted." "For her," Long Yanting interjected, his voice icy and devoid of any warmth. It was only then that Ling Fei noticed me standing behind him. Her smile faltered, and after a long pause, she forced a grin, extending the large bag towards me. "Madam," her crisp voice contained an undercurrent of barely concealed resentment. I peered into the bag, discovering an assortment of thermos cups filled with soy milk, coffee, and various fruit juices. I had no desire to consume anything from this woman. Therefore, I waved my hand dismissively, silently conveying to her, "No, thank you." "Rong Zishi." Long Yanting turned around, his expression dark as he fixed his gaze upon me. "If you faint from hunger again, I do not possess the leisure to escort you to the hospital." I lowered my head, pouting slightly. Who has ever fainted from hunger? Apart from that one time you tossed and turned me all night, I have never lost consciousness. Even if I were to drink, I would not touch the orange juice bought by Ling Fei. They say pregnancy dulls the mind for 3 years. Perhaps I have indeed lost my wits to act so willfully before Long Yanting. As expected, when he saw me standing motionless, his expression darkened further. Ling Fei, weary from holding the offerings, smiled and tried to mediate. "Madam, you should at least eat a little. All of this was specifically procured for you by young Master Long." I finally comprehended why Ling Feifei had been so elated to present the items to Long Yanting earlier. She had assumed he desired to drink them. I reached out and selected a cup of orange juice, taking a sip. The sweet and tangy flavor seemed delightful. In that instant, I found myself enamored with the taste, drinking nearly half the cup in one go. Long Yanting cast a fleeting glance in my direction, his gaze settling on the large bag in Ling Feifei's hands. Dispose of all this and fetch another cup of orange juice. Yes, young Master Long. The smile on Ling Feifei's face was more sorrowful than if she were weeping. And in the moment she turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of the resentment lurking in her eyes. Chapter 25. Deceived as the second glass of orange juice was handed to me, I eagerly brought it to my lips, savoring its delightful taste. I had never realized how utterly delicious it could be. Just then, Long Yanting's phone rang. He glanced at it and turned to leave. I was left alone with Ling Feifei, who no longer felt the need to maintain her faade. Indeed, as Long Yanting's figure vanished around the corner, the smile on Ling Feifei's face faded completely. Rong Zixi, what a skillful charmer you are. You have managed to enthrall both Long Yanting and Gu Tianan, two formidable men. Let me tell you, Long Yanting will never fall in love with you. Not even if you bore his child. I smiled faintly. Would he love you instead? Ling Feifei interpreted my expression, and her face flushed with indignation. Rong Zixi, her arm was raised high, her exquisitely made-up face contorting with rage. I calmly met her gaze. Defeated, Ling Feifei lowered her arm, but soon a strange smile crept onto her lips. Rong Zixi, you are still unaware, aren't you? This week, Long Yanting has been with me, day and night, inseparable. A sharp pang pierced my heart, but I quickly regained my composure, smiling as I hastily wrote on the notepad. If you truly are inseparable, then you wouldn't be here flailing your arms in front of me. I suspect you are merely Long Yanting's assistant. Ling Feifei's expression shifted dramatically as her brows arched high. So what if I'm an assistant? Wasn't your sister once Long Yanting's assistant too? Let me tell you, Rong Zixi, not only will I take your sister's position at the company, but I will also gradually displace her from Long Yanting's heart. Whatever, I retorted, weary, and sank into a chair. As long as I could protect this child and find solace, I had no desire to involve myself in Long Yanting's entanglements. Ling Feifei seemed taken aback by my indifferent demeanor, as if she had struck a pillow, her face displaying frustration. I lowered my head and continued sipping my orange juice. Suddenly, Ling Feifei leaned in close to me. Zixi, why not consider terminating the pregnancy? Her tone was gentle, but her volume was anything but. I turned my face, astonished and enraged. Did this absurd woman even comprehend what she was suggesting? I opened my mouth, silently uttering two words, dream on. A look of pity and concern appeared on Ling Feifei's face. Zixi, regarding the child, Long Yanting will inevitably find out. I saw you with Gu Tianan in the car that day. That's nonsense. Long Yanting already harbored suspicions. If he heard that, it would be disastrous. Anger coursed through me, causing my body to tremble as I instinctively slapped Ling Feifei. I turned, only to find Long Yanting standing right before me. My previous expression was one of palpable guilt. There was no way to clear my name now. I turned sharply to glare at Ling Feifei, only to see her bow her head, covering her face, an expression of utter grievance etched upon her features. Yet in the corner of her eye, a fleeting glimmer of triumph betrayed her true emotions. I had been deceived. This woman was undoubtedly scheming. In an instant, I felt a tumultuous surge of anger rising within me, a sharp pang of pain gripping my lower abdomen. I could scarcely afford to confront Ling Feifei. Instead, I desperately inhaled deeply. At that moment, Long Yanting's visage was already a stormy shade of pale. Suddenly, he seized my wrist, hastening toward the exit. I nearly sprinted to keep pace with him until we reached the car. As soon as the door swung open, Long Yanting forcefully shoved me inside. The door slamming shut behind us, locking with a definitive click, the tinted windows rolling up to shield us from the light. The interior of the car plunged into darkness, an oppressive atmosphere enveloping us from all sides. Is it true that you and Gu Tianan were together in the car? Long Yanting's gaze darkened, storm clouds brewing in his black eyes, akin to a demon risen from the depths of hell. No, 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 that's not it. I recoiled, wishing fervently that I could speak. Yet, no matter how I tried to utter a sound, my voice remained trapped within. Rome Zishi, I never imagined that beneath your seemingly innocent facade, you could be so reckless in the presence of a man. Long Yanting's voice was a low, furious roar as he abruptly grasped my collar, leaning in closer. Chapter 26. You have killed our child. In a moment of merciless torment inflicted by Long Yanting, I opened my mouth and sank my teeth into his neck. The sharp pain surged through me, as if blades were churning within my abdomen. Unable to restrain myself, I released my grip, groaning in agony, and fell back, my body arching in despair. A warm, sticky sensation began to spread, and my consciousness, like warmth, gradually peeled away from my corporeal form. Long Yanting paused, abruptly recoiling and casting a glance around. Through my blurred vision, I distinctly perceived a flicker of panic deep within his eyes. Long Yanting, you ultimately have slain our child. My arms hung limply at my sides, my mind devoid. Even the last vestige of awareness departed with the blood pooling beneath me, drifting toward an unknown realm, dissipating into nothingness. When I awakened once more, I found myself surrounded by the stark white walls of the hospital, the unyielding chill of the four drip still present. I stared vacantly at the ceiling above, my gaze unfocused, devoid of clarity. My child is gone. Even without uttering a single word, I felt acutely that the tiny life that held my final hope had vanished. Long Yanting's handsome visage appeared above me. His eyes were bloodshot, and a stubbly chin hinted at fatigue. I did not look at him, nor did I so much as shift my gaze. This man, for the first time, had instilled in me a profound disappointment. Our child had become the harbinger of severed ties to my last thread of affection. Zishi, you're awake? He called hoarsely, his voice low yet still melodious. Yet, within me, no ripples of emotion stirred. I feigned ignorance, remaining transfixed on the ceiling. Long Yanting suddenly bowed his head, burying his face in his hands, and spoke in a muffled tone, Zishi, I'm sorry, it was unintentional. So, it is true, the child is indeed lost? Though I'd sensed it long before, hearing the news confirmed pierced my heart, leaving me breathless. Chilling tears streamed down the corners of my eyes. I longed to weep, yet no sound emerged. Long Yanting raised his head, noticing my tears, and reached out to wipe them from my face. Before his fingertips could graze my cheek, I turned my face away in revulsion. Do not touch me. His hand froze in midair, his expression a mixture of anguish and dismay. An unbearable silence ensued. I turned my face aside and closed my eyes. Knock, knock. A voice from the doorway broke the stillness. Young Master Long, you have an important business meeting in half an hour. Get out. Long Yanting growled in frustration, followed by the sound of the door slamming shut. I kept my eyes closed, silently shedding tears. After a long while, Long Yanting reached out and gently stroked my hair, letting out a deep sigh. Rest well. Only after the sound of his footsteps had completely faded away did I finally open my eyes, staring at the closed door while a painful whimper escaped from the depths of my throat. In the evening, as Zhangma was feeding me kanji, Long Yanting suddenly pushed open the ward door. He entered with a briefcase in hand, appearing weary and travel-worn, as if he had just concluded a meeting and rushed over. Young Master, Zhang Gumai exclaimed. Is she well? Long Yanting inquired, hastily washing his hands as he approached. Yes. I prepared a kanji with pig liver and lean meat for the young madam. The doctor said after the miscarriage. Zhang Ma abruptly realized her mistake, quickly ceasing her words and looking at me with concern. I will take it, Long Yanting said as he took the bowl of kanji from Zhang Ma, commanding softly. You may leave now. Zhang Ma swiftly exited, closing the door behind her, leaving just the two of us in the room. Long Yanting scooped a spoonful of kanji, blowing gently on it before offering it to my lips, his tone tender. Come, open your mouth. If this were a time past, such attentive care from him would surely have made me wake up smiling in my sleep. However, now, confronted by this man with a beastly heart, a murderer, I raised my hand, pushing away the spoon he extended towards my lips, causing the kanji to spill onto his shirt. Still unsatisfied, I forcefully swung my arm. With a crash, the bowl in Long Yanting's hand flew from his grasp, shattering on the ground, exquisite porcelain fragments scattered everywhere. His expression darkened significantly. I regarded him with a cold glare, pointing towards the door. Leave. Long Yanting abruptly stood, his hands clenched tightly at his sides. Then he sat back down, calling Zhang Ma. Bring another bowl of kanji. This bastard. I glared at him, my eyes blazing with fury, gesturing angrily. Get out. You murderer. Long Yanting's cold gaze trembled momentarily before he finally turned and exited the room. Chapter 27. The gift for our wedding anniversary. Since that fateful day, Long Yanting has not graced me with his presence again. I spent a fortnight in the hospital, under the attentive care of Aunt Zhang, who prepared nourishing porridge and provided meticulous support. On the day of my discharge, with Aunt Zhang's assistance, I stepped out of the ward and was greeted by the brilliant sunlight outside, which struck me with a sense of disconnection from reality. Indeed, the child was gone, and the former Rong Zishi, who once devotedly loved Long Yanting, was no more. From this day forth, I shall live solely for myself. Upon exiting the building, I saw Long Yanting's luxurious vehicle parked at the entrance. He opened the car door and extended his hand toward me. I deftly sidestepped his gesture, maintaining a frosty demeanor as I took my seat inside. Long Yanting followed suit, shutting the door with an air of icy displeasure, his tightly pressed lips betraying his dissatisfaction. However, I was no longer the Rong Zishi who revolved around him. His joy or anger bore no significance to me. Once home, I ascended the stairs and locked myself in my room, burying myself under the covers in a deep slumber. Long Yanting has never favored the presence of superfluous individuals in the house. The bodyguard at the entrance had retreated, and Aunt Zhang would leave after preparing meals. I had always been taciturn, but now I had become even more withdrawn, often spending entire days without exchanging a single word with Long Yanting. The vast villa felt as though it were suffused with a chilling atmosphere. The Cold War continued for a week. Before long, May 20th arrived, the third anniversary of my marriage to Long Yanting. Traditionally, I would rise early on this day to prepare a sumptuous candlelit dinner, thoughtfully selecting a gift for him, standing at the entrance of the villa in anticipation, waiting until the stars illuminated the night sky. Long Yanting would invariably return home past midnight, and not once had he touched the dinner I had prepared. This year, I, as per my custom, had arranged a lavish dinner and a special gift. At 6 in the evening, just as I placed the last dish on the table and was about to fetch the thermal cover, a soft sound echoed at the door. I looked up to see Long Yanting entering. Weariness etched upon his features, yet it did nothing to diminish his striking handsomeness. In times past, the sight of his face would send my heart racing, but now it merely conjured memories of his harsh demeanor from that day in the car. I gently averted my gaze, striving to dismiss the thoughts. Zishi, his rich voice, slightly elevated in pitch, revealed a trace of delight. Long Yanting strode over, casting a glance at the table, and I noticed a glimmer in his dark eyes. He took my hand, his demeanor softened as he inquired, Zishi, did you prepare all these dishes yourself? Is it too tiring for you? Such a warm and gentle Long Yanting was disconcerting. Every smile that graced his face felt insincere and revolting to me. I subtly withdrew my hand and turned to draw the curtains. Upon returning to my seat, I found that Long Yanting had already lit the candles. The flickering flames cast a circle of warmth and romance, transforming the surroundings into a dreamlike haze. Yet within me, clarity reigned supreme. 3 years have passed, and for the first time, Long Yanting returned home before midnight. We were celebrating our wedding anniversary. I took the initiative to pour 2 glasses of red wine, offering one to Long Yanting while holding the other in my hand, lifting it in a toast. Zishi, Long Yanting grasped my hand, gently removing the wine glass from my palm. Your body has only just recovered. It is not suitable for you to drink. His voice was soft, his eyes filled with gentle warmth, even tinged with a hint of affection. In the dim glow of candlelight, such a tender-hearted prince would captivate any woman. If only I had not been disappointed in him. I let out a cold, silent laugh, stubbornly raising my glass. Long Yanting furrowed his brow slightly, but lifted his glass as well. Clink! The 2 glass cups met with a crisp sound, resonating like something within my heart shattering. The candlelit dinner unfolded in a silence that was both warm and poignant. After the meal, Long Yanting turned his gaze upon me, his eyes glimmering with intensity. "Where's the gift?" I retrieved the divorce agreement I had prepared in advance and slowly pushed it towards Long Yanting. Chapter 28. Yin Ting. "Let us divorce." A delicate little box slipped from Long Yanting's sleeve and fell onto the table, bursting open. The radiant ring, with its diamond glimmering in the flickering candlelight, sparkled with enchanting colors. It was the ring Long Yanting had purchased, the very thing I had once yearned for. Yet now, if his compassion must be bought at the cost of a child's life, then I would rather relinquish it. "Yanting, let us divorce." I wrote with fervent strokes on the notepad. I did not agree. Long Yanting's voice was cold and deep, laced with a hint of irritation and an unyielding dominance. "I no longer love you." I meticulously inscribed, each stroke like a blunt knife, repeatedly cutting into my heart. By the time I finished, even my breath seemed to taste of pain. Taking a deep breath, I slowly raised the notepad before Long Yanting, meeting his gaze with a calm expression. With a swift motion, he sent the notepad flying, shattering against the wall. I continued to regard him with a detached demeanor, my eyes icy, devoid of anger or joy. Perhaps he had never encountered such a frigid version of me, or perhaps the resolve and indifference in my gaze stirred something within him. After a prolonged silence, Long Yanting finally subdued his anger, softening his expression as he looked at me. "Xi," he called hoarsely. "I'm truly sorry about the child. If you wish, we can have another." I gently shook my head, conveying that there would be no more children between us. His eyes widened in shock, the glimmer within them seeming to ignite with fire. I remained calm and unafraid, gazing directly into his eyes, silently and slowly articulating a cruel truth. "Our child has already been taken from us by you." Long Yanting's towering figure swayed, the light in his eyes shattering in an instant. I turned away, retreating to my room. Since the child was gone, whether he believed it or felt anger or sorrow, it no longer held any significance. The next day, as I awoke and stepped outside, Long Yanting's presence had vanished from the house. On the dining table lay a familiar note. "I will be on a business trip for half a month. I have asked Zhang to come and keep you company." Staring at the additional line, I found myself lost in thought for an extended period. Eventually, I crumpled the note forcefully, retrieved the box where it was stored, and rushed to the garden, emptying its contents. One by one, I unfolded each note, then ignited them in flames. The fragments of our past were consumed by the flickering fire. As I watched the ash scatter in the wind, my heart felt hollow and breezy. Returning to my room, I retyped the divorce agreement, signed it neatly, and placed it on the desk in the study. Additionally, I left a note with a single sentence: "Take good care of your sister." After completing these tasks, I dialed Zhang, informing her that her presence was no longer necessary and that I could manage on my own. Subsequently, I began to gather my belongings. Having resided in this opulent villa for 3 years, it was only during the packing process that I realized how few items truly belonged to me. Yet, I could vividly recall the origin and price of every single object in the room, as well as each garment hanging on the balcony. Particularly, those acquisitions made solely to cater to Long Yanting's preferences, his habits, and inclinations. I found I understood him even better than I did myself. As I reached out to caress each item, my hands trembled and tears fell drop by drop. It dawned on me how profoundly challenging it is to forget someone. It is akin to excising a malignant growth that has entwined itself within one's very essence. Removal necessitates the severance of flesh along with the skin. I traversed every corner of the room, reliving the entirety of my humble marital existence over the past 3 years. When I finally finished packing my clothes and stepped outside, I was taken aback to find that dusk had nearly fallen. Gripping my suitcase, I resolutely ventured forth. No matter where I would go tonight, I was determined to leave this cold abode behind. I descended the stairs slowly, my head bowed, lost in thought, when suddenly a pair of long legs caught my eye. I looked up in astonishment. Chapter 29. This brazen man, Long Yanting, wasn't he on a business trip? It quickly dawned on me that it must have been Zhang Ma who informed him that I was home alone tonight. So, he intended to return for a surprise assault? Huh. Long Yanting's gaze fell upon my suitcase as he asked in a cold, heavy tone, Zishi, where do you intend to go at this late hour? I remained silent, pulling my suitcase past him with an air of indifference. As we brushed past each other, Long Yanting suddenly seized my arm, a chilling coldness emanating from his very being. Don't tell me you plan to move in with Gu Tiannan. Indeed, I raised my head, silently yet resolutely affirming my intention. Although I had no desire to involve Gu Tiannan, Long Yanting's self-righteous demeanor was utterly infuriating. His grip tightened abruptly, the force so intense it felt as if he intended to crush my very bones. I gritted my teeth, silently enduring it. A strange smile flickered across Long Yanting's pale face. Zishi, don't you wish to divorce me? We haven't even discussed the division of assets. How can you just leave? So his hurried return was driven by fear of losing his fortune. I lifted my chin and smirked derisively, gesturing lightly. I desire nothing. I haven't taken a single item from the Long family. Is that so? Long Yanting's lips curved, his gaze fixated on my suitcase. What might it contain? Who knows if I had hidden anything within? That despicable man. I can allow you to inspect it. Frustrated, I gestured emphatically, then turned and stormed into the house. With a forceful motion, I yanked open the suitcase, spilling its contents onto the carpet, glaring at Long Yanting with indignation. Look, come and see. Bang! Long Yanting kicked the door behind him, locked it, and pocketed the key, ascending the stairs without a backward glance. Throughout the entire encounter, he had not spared a single glance at the items I had discarded. Suddenly realizing I had been deceived, I rushed after him, grasping his arm. Long Yanting, you cannot do this. He looked down at me from his elevated stance, his gaze haughty. Suddenly, he reached out and lightly caressed my cheek. Zishi, no woman dares to defy me. If you decide now to live harmoniously with me, it is not too late. This shameless man, how could he utter such words after trampling on my dignity and taking my child? I raised my hand, standing on tiptoe, and aimed a slap at his cheek. Long Yanting effortlessly intercepted my wrist mid-air, a hint of mockery glimmering in his eyes. He tugged gently on my wrist, causing me to stumble into his embrace. Our eyes met, breaths mingling. I turned my face away, my cheek grazing his nose. Long Yanting's lips curled slightly, and he nibbled my ear, whispering in an almost seductive tone, Do you wish to have a liaison with Gu Tiannan? Dream on. If you are eagerly yearning for a child, I can provide you one immediately. Scoundrel. Shameless. A profound chill coursed through me, surging from my feet to my very core, leaving me trembling in its wake. I thrust my hand forcefully against Long Yanting's chest, and seizing the fleeting moment of his stumble, I dashed up the stairs, fled into my room, and with a sharp click, locked the door behind me. Finally, I leaned against the door, collapsing helplessly to the ground. Chapter 30. Gu Tiannan, engaged in combat within my heart, was perpetually unsettled, plagued by a night filled with nightmares. As I felt an incessant dread that Long Yanting might burst into my room at any moment. The scene in the car replayed in my mind like a haunting echo. No, please, do not treat me this way. After countless struggles that jolted me awake, I finally succumbed to exhaustion and drifted into a fitful sleep. Fortunately, the night passed without incident. The following day, the front door remained firmly locked. I found myself once again confined, yet this time, Long Yanting was at home to keep me company. He personally prepared meals and simmered soup, accompanying me for a stroll in the garden as the sun set. I detested takeout, often imagining the food in my bowl as a certain someone stabbing it fiercely with my chopsticks. In response, Long Yanting procured a plethora of ingredients and recipes, endeavoring to learn the art of cooking. Regrettably, he lacked culinary talent, often transforming the kitchen into a chaotic mess. And despite his efforts, the results were invariably destined for the trash. From the staircase, I observed him floundering in an apron, and I often pondered, is this truly the same proud and fastidious man? After enduring several meals of emptiness, I reluctantly compelled Long Yanting to summon Zhang Ma. As she tidied up, she chattered away, Young master is actually willing to learn to cook for you, young mistress. You are indeed fortunate. I smiled faintly, but beneath it lay a frigid abyss. Fortunate? Who has witnessed a woman being pampered like a captive animal? Everything he does is merely to prevent me from seeking solace in another man's embrace, even though I have never entertained such thoughts. After our meal, Zhang Ma began her cleaning routine, while Long Yanting took me outside to the garden for fresh air. As soon as we stepped out, I spotted a tall figure on the lawn. It was Gu Tianan. Upon seeing him, Long Yanting's grip on my hand tightened abruptly, his fingers pinching mine with a fierce intensity. I winced in pain, but remained silent. I have never understood why Long Yanting felt such apprehension towards Gu Tianan. Are all men inherently so petty and arrogant? Gu Tianan approached, his dull gray eyes brightening momentarily upon noticing me. A faint chill emanated from him, suggesting he had been standing there for quite some time. "Zishi, are you all right?" he rasped, his face betraying profound concern. "Not at all," I screamed internally, yet I could only nod silently. Sensing Gu Tianan's unspoken thoughts, I resolved not to complicate matters further. Gu Tianan gazed at me with tender concern and, suddenly clenching his fist, delivered a powerful punch to Long Yanting's face. Unprepared, Long Yanting was struck squarely. He released my hand and staggered back several steps. Before he could regain his balance, Gu Tianan surged forward, seizing his collar, followed by another swift blow. Long Yanting turned his head to evade, grasping Gu Tianan's tie, retaliating with a punch of his own. In an instant, the two men were entangled in a fierce struggle. I stood to the side, watching the two individuals fiercely intent on besting each other, my anxiety causing me to stamp my feet in frustration, yet feeling utterly powerless to intervene. In a moment of desperation, I lowered my head and charged forward, directly colliding with the space between them. Whoosh! The force of their punches sliced through the air beside my ears. "Zishi! Zishi!" Upon witnessing my reckless advance, Long Yanting and Gu Tianan's expressions shifted dramatically, and they hastily diverted their fists. The sheer intensity of their movements caused them to lose balance, sending both of them stumbling backward, crashing to the ground with two resounding thuds. Chapter 31. If you are willing, I will take you away, Zishi. Are you all right? Gu Tianan's concerned inquiry rang in my ears, accompanied by Long Yanting's scornful curses. I rushed over and helped Gu Tianan to his feet. Upon seeing Gu Tianan sheltered behind me, Long Yanting's expression shifted dramatically. "Rong Zishi, come here." Each word felt as piercing as ice water. "Don't go." Gu Tianan grasped my wrist, gazing deeply into my eyes. "Zishi, if you are willing, I could take you away right now." For the first time, he looked at me with such fervent intensity. For the first time, he expressed his feelings so plainly. I was momentarily taken aback. Despite Gu Tianan's kindness towards me, I had always perceived it as mere camaraderie. In my heart, he was simply an older brother. Long Yanting remained silent, his gaze fixed upon me, his face a blend of pallor and anger, his thin lips pressed into a straight line, conveying a clear message. "If you dare to leave with him, I will tear you apart." After a moment's contemplation, I resolutely shook my head. In Gu Tianan's eyes, something seemed to shatter rapidly. His handsome face was etched with disappointment and reluctance. "Zishi, are you truly willing to endure such pain at his hands?" I glanced at Gu Tianan with a hint of apology. It was not that I wished to continue suffering, but rather, I did not want to drag the innocent you into this turmoil. In an instant, Long Yanting stepped forward, wrenching my wrist from Gu Tianan's grasp and pulling me fiercely into his chest, arrogantly proclaiming, "Gu Tianan, Zishi does not wish to leave with you. Do you see that? From now on, stay away from my wife." Gu Tianan's eyes dimmed instantly. I was Long Yanting's wife, a fact that was indisputable. His fingers curled into a fist, the knuckles turning white from the pressure. He looked at me deeply, then turned to leave, and, as he brushed past, I distinctly heard him whisper to Long Yanting, "Since you have broken your promises time and again, then take good care of her." Broken promises? What unspoken agreement existed between Long Yanting and Gu Tianan that I was unaware of? Confusion furrowed my brow as I looked up at Long Yanting. He merely rested his chin against the top of my head. "The tulips over there are blooming beautifully," he remarked before unceremoniously guiding me towards the garden. I numbly followed in Long Yanting's footsteps, my mind racing with thoughts of the agreement between him and Gu Tianan. What was it? Why had they never confided in me? Why had Long Yanting broken his promise? What had he pledged to Gu Tianan? Watch where you're going. Long Yanting suddenly tapped my forehead with his fingers. I snapped back to reality, glancing up to see a branch overhead, poised to jab my eyes if I took another step forward. Long Yanting shot me a fierce glare. If you keep thinking about Gu Tianan, I will split your head open and remove him from it. I pouted slightly, silently turning my face away. After that day, Long Yanting assigned bodyguards to stand watch at the garden gate of the villa. I never saw Gu Tianan again, like a gilded canary, confined within this opulent prison. Each day, after attending to his affairs, Long Yanting would still join me for meals, strolls, and basking in the sun. Alas, my heart could no longer stir even the slightest ripple. I believed that the latter half of my life would pass in this manner, as tranquil as still waters, until one fateful day. Chapter 32. The bloodstained blanket. After dinner, just as Long Yanting was about to pull me out for a stroll, we were interrupted by Zhang Ma's urgent calls from upstairs. Young master. Young master. I turned my head and saw Zhang Ma holding something aloft, and my expression immediately shifted. She stood on the second-floor balcony, brandishing a blanket that I had secretly tucked beneath Long Yanting's bed. I recognized it instantly. The blanket bore dark red stains. After everything that had transpired recently, I had completely forgotten about it, and I never expected Zhang Ma would uncover it. Zhang Ma raised her hand. Young master, I was wondering if you still need this blanket? Long Yanting furrowed his brows. Where did this come from? From beneath your bed. But I see that it is soiled. Should it be washed or discarded? As she spoke, Zhang Ma abruptly tore the blanket open, revealing a dried and congealed bloodstain in the center, resembling scattered plum blossoms. I felt a wave of shame and embarrassment wash over me, wishing I could vanish instantly. Long Yanting grasped my hand, tightening his grip, his piercing gaze fixated on my flushed face. I lowered my eyes, unable to meet his gaze. Suddenly, Long Yanting pulled me upstairs and snatched the blanket from Zhang Ma's hands, coldly commanding, "You go downstairs first. No one is allowed to come up without my orders." But, bang, the door slammed shut violently, leaving Zhang Ma's worried face on the other side. Inside the room, only Long Yanting and I remained. He exuded an icy aura, his eyes glinting with an unsettling chill. I recoiled a couple of steps, struggling to swallow my fear. I must admit, this aspect of Long Yanting terrified me. Long Yanting advanced toward me step by step, raising the blanket in his hand, and demanded sharply, "What is the meaning of this?" I timidly glanced at him, biting my lower lip, too frightened to speak. Abruptly, he flung the blanket onto the floor, glaring at me with an expression that seemed to yearn to tear me apart. His piercing gaze left me feeling utterly exposed. "Rong Zishi." He gritted my name through clenched teeth. "You better explain yourself. What is the story behind the bloodstains on this blanket? How did it end up hidden beneath my bed?" Seeing that the truth was out, I could no longer hide. Reluctantly, I fetched paper and pen and, akin to a primary school student confessing, I meticulously detailed that night when I disguised myself as his sister and stealthily approached the intoxicated Long Yanting, including the date with clarity. Once finished, I respectfully handed the notebook to Long Yanting. He read through it with swift intensity, and when he lifted his gaze to meet mine again, his expression was a complex mixture of emotions, his features contorted in a manner that suggested both sorrow and relief. He murmured, "So that night, I truly was not dreaming. Yet, the woman in my dream was not Z. It was you." I buried my head deep into my chest, feeling ashamed of my past foolishness. If time could be reversed, I would never have entered his room that night. Though the absence of Long Yanting may haunt me for a lifetime, I shall never endure the excruciating pain of losing a child as I do today. Long Yanting has awakened from a tumult of emotions, abruptly unleashing a furious roar. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why?" I smirked derisively. "Did you ever truly believe in me, Long Yanting?" This light, airy question rendered him speechless. He stared at the notebook, his mouth agape, and, after what felt like an eternity, a sound akin to an animal's lament escaped from deep within his throat. "I have killed my own child. How could I be so foolish?" As he lamented, Long Yanting clutched at his hair, his face contorted in anguish. Gazing upon his tormented visage, I found no satisfaction in revenge. Instead, all that remained was an emptiness within, a void through which the wind howled. Chapter 33. I can no longer dare to love you long. Yanting finally lifted my confinement. After being locked in the study for an entire night, the following morning, he opened his crimson eyes and carried me, along with my bedding, into his room. The moment he laid me down on the pillow, he leaned closer and whispered in my ear, "Zishi, let us start anew. I shall love you well." A wave of bittersweet emotion surged to my nose, and tears glistened in my eyes, swirling within their confines. This was the promise I had awaited for 3 long years, with the intent of waiting a lifetime more. Yet now, between us lay a life lost. How could we possibly begin again? I gazed at him, enunciating each word slowly with my lips. "I can no longer dare to love you. You must love," he commanded imperiously, his tone both domineering and forceful. I silently closed my eyes, unwilling to continue the argument. Life continued, neither angry nor fervent, yet I distinctly felt that after that day, Long Yanting treated me differently. He returned home promptly after work, tucked me in during the cold of midnight, and even learned a few simple dishes under Aunt Zhang's guidance. I observed all his kindness, silently accepting it. However, I understood clearly that he did all this out of guilt. He was seeking atonement. Such love I would rather forego. Thus, I steadfastly upheld my boundaries, refusing to allow him to cross any further. Aside from physical contact, his actions held no significance for me. Nevertheless, Long Yanting continued to cherish me as if I were a precious gem, enduring the torment of countless cold showers each night, never losing his patience with me. He would always hold me tightly in his arms while I slept soundly. Long Yanting bestowed upon me an unprecedented affection, yet I withered away day by day, resembling a lifeless doll. Each day, my favorite pastime became sitting idly on a chair by the lawn. After once again sitting in silence for half a day, Long Yanting suddenly crouched down, burying his head in my lap, asking in a muffled voice, "Zishi, what can I do to make you happy?" I glanced at his neatly cropped hair, reached out to gently push his head away. "Zishi, do not be so cold to me." His voice was heavy with frustration and grievance. "Please, show me a clear path to atonement. Zishi, I will do anything you request." My eyes suddenly sparkled with hope as I looked at him. "I wish to return to school to work. May I?" Before I could finish my gesture, his handsome face instantly darkened. I had anticipated his reaction, knowing he would extinguish any glimmer of hope. I smirked sarcastically. Long Yanting cast a complex glance at me and pondered, "If you feel cooped up at home, then go to Longting Group and be my assistant." In an instant, I was reminded of his former assistant. "Rongzi, my sister." "Well, let that be." I resolutely declined, rising to my feet and turning to leave. Long Yanting grasped my arm from behind, spinning me around to gaze intently into my eyes. In his profound, cold black orbs, a simmering rage churned beneath the surface. "Zishi, why can't you see all the efforts I've made? Is Gu Tianin truly that significant to you? Have you genuinely fallen for him? What then? Do you consider all those moments we shared?" Hearing him invoke the past, I was momentarily transported back to those humble days, a wave of bitter sweetness washing over me. Long Yanting's penetrating doubts pierced me deeply. I immediately wrenched free from his grasp, letting out a scoff, gesturing emphatically. "Long Yanting, do not presume. Just because I do not love you, does it mean I must fall for someone else? I wish to return to school to attend classes, but it is certainly not as sordid as you imagine. I relish being a sign language teacher, for within that unique community, I find understanding and respect." Long Yanting's gaze flickered momentarily. A glimmer of light danced in his eyes, bursting forth like fireworks. He stared at me, and after a long pause, his lips parted to utter, "Very well, Zishi, I consent to your return to classes, but you must promise me, do not fall for Gu Tianan. He is not as wonderful as you perceive him to be." Had it not been for him, Long Yanting abruptly fell silent, his lips pressed tightly together. Ceasing further words, what exactly had Gu Tianan done back then? What entanglements existed between him and Long Yanting? This was a mystery I was determined to unravel. Chapter 34. Gu Tianan is truly a scoundrel. As soon as I entered the school sports field, Gu Tianan shouted exuberantly, nearly flying down from the teaching building. Ignoring the astonished gazes of the surrounding teachers and students, he enveloped me in his arms, his hand repeatedly caressing my back, leaning in to whisper softly in my ear, "Zishi, how have you been?" Zishi, if I were to remain oblivious to Gu Tiannan's affections at this moment, I would be a complete fool. Regrettably, my heart had long since been lost, leaving me unable to reciprocate his profound feelings. I gently pushed Gu Tiannan away and offered him a faint smile. Greeting him with sign language, "Teacher Gu, it's been a while." His taken-aback expression at my polite distance caused his brow to furrow deeply. "Zishi, what is wrong? Did Long Yin Ting threaten you again? That scoundrel. Don't be afraid. I'll take you to confront him right now." I grasped Gu Tiannan's hand and shook my head. "No need. Thank you for your concern. Yin Ting has been treating me well these days. Teacher Gu, having a friend like you makes me very happy." As I emphasized the word friend, I deliberately slowed down my gestures so he could perceive my meaning more clearly. Indeed, after reading my signs, a flicker of pain crossed his eyes, followed by a bitter smile. "Zishi, since you still consider me a friend, there is no need to be so formal. Don't call me Teacher Gu, all right?" I nodded, smiling gently at him. Gu Tian then returned my smile, and as we reverted to the position of friends, the distance between us felt significantly closer. However, certain things had already changed irrevocably. I realized that even in my beloved environment, engaged in familiar work, I could not find joy. Perhaps the innocent and happy Rong Zishi of the past would never return. Long Yin Ting continued to pick me up and drop me off from work every day, regardless of how busy he was. One afternoon after school, when Long Yin Ting saw me walking alongside Gu Tiannan, his expression darkened instantly. As soon as I got into the car, he slammed the door shut and harshly warned me, "Rong Zishi, I told you not to get too close to him. Gu Tiannan is not a good person." I turned my face away coldly, unwilling to engage with Long Yin Ting. In his fury, he pressed the accelerator hard, and the car shot forward like an arrow released from its bow. Upon returning home, as soon as I stepped through the door, Long Yin Ting pulled a voice recorder from his bag and slammed it down in front of me. Confused, I pressed play, and a tearful voice of Ling Fei came through. I added abortion pills to the orange juice, but it was Gu Tiannan who made me do it. "Please, I beg you." The recorder slipped from my grasp, and I looked at Long Yin Ting in disbelief. Abortion pills. So, it was not Long Yin Ting who harmed my child, but Ling Fei. A flicker of pain crossed Long Yin Ting's eyes. "I know you cannot forgive me for that incident, so I've been trying every possible way to make amends. It was while I was at the hospital inquiring with the doctor that I happened to overhear a phone call between Ling Fei and Gu Tiannan. Zishi, do you not comprehend the gravity of the situation even now?" It was Gu Tiannan who orchestrated the scheme, instructing Ling Fei to poison the juice, thereby leading to the demise of our child. I gasped, my eyes widening in disbelief as I vehemently shook my head. "No, I cannot accept that Gu Tiannan could commit such an atrocity." Long Yanting seized the recorder from the ground, thrusting it before me, replaying Ling Fei's words once more. "Rong Zishi, do you hear it clearly? It was Gu Tiannan. He directed Ling Fei to administer the poison, causing harm to our child." Long Yanting's voice boomed, as though he were desperately striving to unveil the truth. "Gu Tiannan, while showering you with affection, has been scheming behind your back. He is the epitome of a hypocritical scoundrel. Rong Zishi, this is the man you have recklessly chosen to love." Witnessing Long Yanting's jealousy erupting into a frenzy, I could no longer contain myself and slapped him with force. Chapter 35. Stop making excuses for yourself. With a sharp crack, silence enveloped the room. Long Yanting's crimson eyes were wide with fury, nearly bulging from their sockets, as if he were on the brink of tearing me apart. I averted my gaze, refusing to meet his stare. Bitterness and anguish surged within me like a relentless tide, dampening my eyes. "Long Yanting, what must you understand for me to realize that the reckless man I fell for, without reservation, is you?" After a prolonged silence, Long Yanting's lips parted to utter a phrase. "Rong Zishi, you are ruthless?" I turned to face him. The palpable pain streaming from his blood-red irises was something I had never witnessed before. This version of Long Yanting, dominant, overbearing, prideful, had never shown vulnerability before anyone. My heart felt as though it were pricked by a needle, a sudden sting that caught me off guard. Yet almost instantaneously, a cold facade returned to my face. Long Yanting, do not present yourself as the victim before me. You are unworthy of such sympathy. I snatched the recording pen from his hand, smashing it to the ground, and ruthlessly ground it beneath my foot. This artifact I would not trust. Ling Feifei has always admired you. What more do you expect her to say? Yet, please refrain from allowing her to behave like a rabid dog, biting indiscriminately. Gu Tianan, the gentleman, is the last glimmer of light in my life. I could not fathom how cruel the truth could be. In this world, who else could I trust? Long Yanting's face bore an icy demeanor, his narrow eyes half closed, exuding a chilling and perilous light. Suddenly, a mocking curve formed at the corner of his lips, and he spat out 2 words. Foolish, worthless. Huh. Wasn't it foolishness that allowed me to love you so humbly for 3 years? My fingers clenched tightly, then released as I lifted my head defiantly to meet his gaze. Gesturing slowly, I may be foolish, yet there is one thing I see with clarity. Long Yanting, even if what Ling Feifei said is true, have you ever considered the wounds you inflicted upon me? Long Yanting froze, as if struck by an unseen force. Had that day not been for the juice Ling Feifei delivered, could you assure that my child would have survived your relentless torment? Long Yanting could not respond. His lips pressed into a pale line. The arrogance and fury that once radiated from him dissipated. Long Yanting, cease your excuses. Having finished my tirade, I turned away, sprinting out of the room. Tears streamed down my cheeks, cascading into my clothing, leaving a chill in their wake. A sharp, cold pain shot through my feet. Glancing down, I realized in my haste I had forgotten to wear shoes. Nevertheless, I raced forward across the villa's lawn, continuing until I reached the gates, blindly dashing into the woods. It seemed that only in this manner could I quell the turmoil within my heart. I could hardly believe that Gu Tianan would do such a thing to me. What is truly excruciating is the thought that has inexplicably surfaced in my mind. The child was not harmed by Long Yanting. Should I perhaps forgive him? I feel a profound sense of shame and anger at such thoughts, yet I cannot suppress them. It feels as though I am on the brink of madness. I am unaware of how long I've been running, but the lights around me have all illuminated. With the last vestiges of my strength, I collapse onto a bench in the park of the Villa District. Beneath my feet lies a network of minuscule wounds, each throbbing with sharp pain. Perhaps only in this way can my heart ache a little less. Zishi, a voice of surprise, tinged with a hint of joy, calls out. I turn to see Gu Tianan standing behind me, a briefcase in hand, his demeanor hurried, though his handsome features betray an undeniable weariness. Is it really you? How did you come to be here? Gu Tianan approaches, the fatigue on his face vanishing as his eyes reveal an unmasked intensity, akin to the stars shimmering in the night sky. As he draws near and notices my injured foot, concern etches his features into a frown, and he reaches out as if to embrace me. What is happening? I shall take you to receive treatment immediately. I gently push Gu Tianan away, meeting his gaze, and with deliberate seriousness, I convey, my child is gone. Does this matter concern you? Chapter 36. Zishi, I am sorry. Gu Tianan's gaze flickered softly. He reached out once more to my knee. Zishi, may I explain later? Your foot is severely injured and requires immediate attention. I stubbornly met his eyes. Gu Tianan, I demand to know the truth right now. If you do not tell me the reality, I would rather lose both of my feet. Zishi. A trace of pain crossed Gu Tianan's eyes as he sat beside me, gently grasping my ankle, trembling slightly. My heart sank gradually. After a long silence, he murmured, I am sorry. I abruptly pushed Gu Tianan away, tears brimming in my eyes as I glared at him, furiously accusing. Why did you do this? On what grounds? Do you understand that, even if Long Yanting does not love me and is cruel towards me, I still wish to bear his child? This child is something I have snatched away at the cost of my dignity. I have already resolved to leave Long Yanting and find a quiet place to live with my child. Why did you instruct Ling Feifei to give me abortion pills? Gu Tianan, do you know that in the depths of my heart, you are a source of comfort even more than Long Yanting? He brings me only pain, while you inspire trust. If love could be transferred, I would extract the heart I have devoted to long yanting entirely for you. It is not that I do not wish to love you. It is simply that I cannot bring myself to love you. But why must you treat me this way? If you cannot reciprocate my feelings, you could choose not to love me. How could you take my child's life? I silently condemned him, tears streaming down my face, my hands gesticulating urgently. Never had I felt such hatred towards my inability to speak as I did in that moment. No, Zishi, Gu Tianan seized my hand. I admit, there were selfish motives behind this matter. However, I absolutely did not instruct Ling Feifei to harm your child. Please believe me. I raised my gaze to Gu Tianan, unable to discern the truth in his words. A flicker of shame crossed his face as he sighed deeply and said quietly, "Very well, Zishi, I will tell you everything. Had I known it would be so difficult for you to leave Long Yanting, I would have revealed it all, even if it meant being hated by you for a lifetime." Gu Tianan sat beside me, gently holding my ankle while carefully avoiding the injured sole of my foot, laying both my feet delicately across his lap. I struggled momentarily, but could not break free. "Promise me, no matter what happens in the future, never harm yourself like this again." His voice carried a gentle yet irrefutable command. Suddenly, I realized that this man, who appeared so gentle and refined, possessed an inherent domineering nature akin to Long Yanting. After all, how could the eldest son of the Gu family be as simple as he seemed? I looked up, waiting for him to explain. Gu Tianan dared not meet my eyes, awkwardly averting his gaze, his own filled with complex emotions. "Zishi, this is the greatest regret of my life. Had I known you would end up like this, I would have done anything to prevent it from happening." That day, while at the hospital, I inadvertently witnessed Ling Feifei pouring a packet of powder into orange juice. My intuition suggested that she was up to no good. Thus, I approached her and seized her arm. Ling Feifei candidly informed me that it was an abortifacient. She claimed to possess a means to ensure that you would lose your child and subsequently part ways with Long Yanting. If I merely feigned ignorance and allowed your separation, she could then claim Long Yanting for herself, while I would gain you, a mutually beneficial arrangement. Strangely compelled, I acquiesced. Gu Tianan clutched his hair. A pained expression etched upon his face, his voice husky and somber. "Zishi, I am so sorry. I truly had no idea the extent of harm this would inflict upon you. At that moment, I only thought that as long as you could sever ties with Long Yanting, I could also provide you with a child." Chapter 37. I am merely a gamble. With a sharp motion, I struck Gu Tianan across the face, my eyes filled with an overwhelming sense of disappointment. These selfish men. Long Yanting is one, and Gu Tianan turns out to be the same. Have they ever considered my feelings, even for a moment? Gu Tianan bore my slap, 5 crimson marks blossoming on his cheek. Yet the hand that grasped my ankle showed no sign of relenting. "Zishi, let us first attend to your injured foot, shall we?" His voice was deep and gentle, almost pleading. "Do not touch me." I silently screamed in fury, exerting all my strength to push him away. Gu Tianan, fearing I might further injure myself, had no choice but to release his grip. I swiftly withdrew my foot from his leg, and, as my bare soles met the cold, unyielding floor, pain shot through me, causing my entire body to tremble. "Zishi," Gu Tianan called out, his voice quivering with emotion. "Please do not torment yourself like this. If you're in pain, just strike me instead." He crouched before me, trembling hands reaching out to touch my foot. "Zishi, I have already faced my punishment. In just a few days, Long Yanting has brought the Ling family to ruin, and the Gu family has suffered greatly as well. Ling Feifei is now missing, and there is no greater punishment than having you despise me." Was Long Yanting hastening to destroy the Ling and Gu families? I was suddenly taken aback, my legs giving way as I sank back into the chair. Gu Tianan regarded me with caution. "Zishi, I swear, I did not instigate Ling Feifei, though I have often contemplated what means I might employ to separate you from Long Yanting, and at times my kindness toward you has been tainted by ulterior motives. I have not sunk so low as to harm a child. I must have been possessed to stand idly by while Ling Feifei acted as she did." Gu Tianan crouched before me in a humble posture, confessing his remorse. My fingertips felt icy. Then why did Ling Feifei claim you were behind it all? Gu Tianan, can you refrain from deceiving me any further? Gu Tianan clenched his fists, anguish evident in his eyes. Ling Feifei must have been captured by Long Yanting. She is merely deflecting blame. She knows of my feelings for you. This is her revenge. A bid to sever my ties. Clearly, Gu Tianan had turned a blind eye to Ling Feifei's malevolence in his efforts to drive me away from Long Yanting. While Long Yanting's presentation of the recording was merely to extinguish my affections for this man. These two loathsome men, one wielded a dull blade, incessantly carving at my heart, while the other poured salt into my gaping wounds. I inhaled deeply, recalling Long Yanting's fierce warning to steer clear of Gu Tianan, and coldly inquired, "What secrets lie between you and Long Yanting that I am unaware of?" Gu Tianan gazed at me in astonishment. Did he divulge that to you? He swore an oath. I regarded Gu Tianan with a detached stare. Long Yanting has said nothing. However, I wish to hear your account. Gu Tianan's gaze dimmed once more. His lips quivered slightly, and after a moment of hesitation, he finally spoke in a somber tone. In the beginning, Long Yanting actually harbored feelings for you. We made a wager, and the loser had to withdraw. He lost. Huh. It turns out that in the eyes of these two men, I am nothing more than a mere stake. The two men I love and trust most in my life have reduced me to a mere bet. I laughed, tears streaming down my face. Gu Tianan looked at me with a pained expression, his voice barely above a whisper. Zishi. Countless times in the past, I had suffered at the hands of Long Yanting, and he would gaze at me with the same tenderness, calling my name softly. He once bestowed upon me a great deal of courage, but now, all that remains is a chilling dread. I took a deep breath, wiped the tears from my face, and demanded to know. How did you place the bet? What were the terms? I must know everything. Chapter 38. I swear, how poisonous. Gu Tianan turned his gaze towards the shadowy depths of the forest, his thoughts seemingly drifting far away. Zishi, do you recall our childhood game of pretending to hold a wedding? You were the youngest, and we chose you to select the groom. The familiar memory surged forth in my mind. I vividly remembered choosing Gu Tianan as my groom, while Long Yanting played the role of my sister's husband. This incident was deeply etched in my memory because, after that day, Long Yanting never played with me again. And to this day, I remain oblivious to what I did wrong. Gu Tianan noticed my perplexed expression and let out a self-deprecating laugh. In truth, both Long Yanting and I desired you as our bride. Realizing I could not compete with him, I devised a clever plan and made a wager with him, placing the power in your hands. Whoever you chose, the other would forever withdraw. To prevent Long Yanting from reneging, I even swore a poisonous oath with him. The rest of the story was clear to me without Gu Tianan's elaboration. Before that fateful game, he had secretly slipped me a piece of chocolate, urging me to select him as the groom. Little did I know that my moment of greed would drive a wedge between me and Long Yanting for eternity, until my sister's incident, leading us to marriage. A sudden wave of resentment surged within me towards Gu Tianan. Had I not boldly asked that question, would Long Yanting and I have been destined to perpetually miss each other? Yet even if we eventually found ourselves together, the cost was unbearably steep. My sister lay in a vegetative state, while I, in my humility, circled around Long Yanting for 3 years. Even now, his every kindness towards me came at the price of a child's life. What poisonous oath did you make with him? I inquired of Gu Tianan. His expression turned peculiar as he hoarsely replied, The oath we both took was the same, sworn upon you. Whoever dares to violate this vow, Rong Zishi shall never find happiness. I swear, how poisonous. My body trembled violently as I gazed at Gu Tianan in disbelief. He lowered his head deeply. Zishi, you truly ought to despise me. I believe that such a resolute and irrevocable oath would deter Long Yanting. Yet after your sister's misfortune, he still succumbed to his family's wishes and married you. Stop talking, please, just stop. I could bear no more, waving my hand to interrupt Gu Tianan, forcefully pushing him away and running heedlessly. The wound on my foot split open, making each step feel as though I were treading upon sharp blades. Gu Tianan shouted from behind, Zishi! Zishi, halt! Zishi, I beg you, do not run away. In a frenzy, I fled as if attempting to shake off a haunting nightmare. The pain in my foot became a numbing agony. Gu Tiannan's voice faded into the distance behind me. In my panic, I ran blindly, only to suddenly collide with a solid wall of flesh. Bang! Oh! In that instant, I fell into a warm, broad embrace. The familiar scent enveloped me. It was Long Yanting, in a state of chaotic helplessness. My heart inexplicably found tranquility. No matter how I feigned strength or attempted to forget him, it was merely a self-deceptive notion, especially after hearing about Gu Tianan and his wager. I realized I could no longer harbor hatred for Long Yanting. "Where have you been at this late hour?" A voice of reproach resounded above me. I obediently lowered my head, for the first time comprehending the profound concern woven into his words. Long Yanting bent down, extending his arms to lift me effortlessly, turning on his heel to depart. A pair of shoes dangled from his hand, swaying rhythmically with his steady gait. Had he truly brought me shoes? Did he know I had ventured out barefoot? A sweet sensation, irresistible, began to blossom within my heart. Chapter 39. Domineering yet tender, I nestled within Long Yanting's embrace, pondering whether his affection for my sister had stemmed from an inability to love me. The 3 years of cold indifference we shared, was it a consequence of that poisonous vow? Did he, out of fear that I might never find happiness, refrain from drawing near, even when we were so close? Did he harbor greater love for my sister? Or, lost in my musings, I was abruptly interrupted by Long Yanting's furious shout. "Rong Zishi, you foolish girl!" Startled, I instinctively shrank back, my gaze meeting his dark, brooding eyes, which flickered with rage and concealed tenderness. Following his line of sight, I quickly understood, instinctively curling my injured foot inward. "How dare you hide?" Long Yanting thundered. Earlier, in the dim light, he had failed to notice my injury, but now, in the brightness as he sought to assist me with my shoes, the extent of my wound became evident, and his anger surged. "Rong Zishi, do you not feel pain? Whoever has wronged you deserves to be repaid tenfold. To inflict suffering upon yourself. Are you foolish?" His words buzzed in my ears, rendering me breathless. I curled tighter into his embrace, secretly clutching his shirt like a trembling creature. "The very person who bullied me was you, don't you know? You big bad wolf." I pouted silently, too afraid to voice my thoughts. Long Yanting cast me a look of exasperation, his lips pressed tightly together, his arm around my waist tightening as he strode swiftly. Upon reaching our doorstep, he forcefully kicked the door open and swiftly carried me inside. My hands gripped his shirt tightly as my heart raced in tandem with his hurried steps. He placed me gently on the sofa, commanding with a gruff voice, "Sit still." His tone dripped with disdain, yet his actions remained exceedingly gentle. I looked up at Long Yanting, and to my surprise, a hint of discomfort flickered across his stern visage. He turned and quickly fetched the first aid kit. Squatting before me, one hand held a cotton swab dipped in antiseptic, while the other grasped my ankle. As the swab touched my foot, the chilling alcohol seeped into the wound, sending waves of unbearable pain coursing through me. Ugh! I instinctively recoiled, biting my lip to stifle a cry, though tears welled in my eyes. "Now you feel pain?" Long Yanting shot me a disdainful glance, yet his touch softened. He knelt before me, lowering his head, gently blowing on my foot. His concentration was heart-melting. Gazing at Long Yanting's handsome profile, I was struck by the depth of my astonishment. He was willing to go to such lengths for me. I reached out, shaking my head to signal him to stop. He lifted his gaze slightly, giving me a fierce look, "Do not whimper in pain." Then he returned to his task, applying the antiseptic while continuing to blow gently. A gentle chill enveloped the wound at my feet, akin to a soothing balm for pain. Tears welled in my eyes as I gazed at his tender and meticulous demeanor, and I stifled a sob, gradually curving my lips into a slight smile. "So now you choose to cry? If you run again, I shall break your legs." Long Yanting, with a surly disposition, issued his threats, inadvertently jabbing at my wound. A sharp intake of breath escaped me, the pain causing my toes to curl. In a hurry, Long Yanting bent down to blow on my injury. He tilted his head, his lips almost brushing against my foot. Such an intimate moment. My cheeks flushed uncontrollably, feeling as if they were ablaze. After tending to my injury, Long Yanting swathed my feet in bandages, resembling a pair of plump piglets, while sternly commanding me against various actions. Suddenly, memories of my past flooded my mind. Following a family upheaval, I had once been sent to see a psychologist. The bespectacled old professor had stated that to coax me into speaking, I needed to overcome my psychological barriers and emerge on my own. At that time, no one had the heart to press me. After attempts at coaxing failed, they all surrendered. Gu Tian'an even secretly learned sign language to teach me. Only Long Yanting resolutely forbade me from using sign language, devising numerous methods to compel me to speak. For instance, he would leave me alone in a pitch-black forest or push me into a swimming pool. It was only today that I realized this man was not as despicable as I had once thought. Had it not been for Gu Tian'an's unyielding protection, perhaps under Long Yanting's pressure, I could have surmounted my psychological barriers and found my voice. Lost in thought, Long Yanting abruptly scooped me up and carried me upstairs. As I noticed his relentless strides towards the bathroom, panic surged within me, and I began to pound on his shoulder. "Put me down. What are you doing, Long Yanting?" He glanced down at me, his tone matter of fact. "I'm giving you a bath. Do you expect to manage yourself in this condition?" I was taken aback, and an ominous feeling washed over me. Chapter 40. Even your sister's toes pale in comparison, all the unpleasant memories from the past suddenly sprang to life in my mind. A shiver coursed through me, and I felt an icy chill enveloping my limbs. Noticing the shift in my demeanor, Long Yanting cast a fleeting glance at me, his brows furrowing slightly. Yet he ultimately placed me gently on the wash basin. "Sit tight. I'll call Aunt Zhang to wash your feet." A profound sense of relief washed over me. Observing my visibly eased expression, Long Yanting shot me a dark look, his eyes filled with a stormy discontent, before turning and leaving the room. 2 days later, I resigned from my position at school. This time, it was my own volition to relinquish a job that had brought me both comfort and joy. The reason was simple. I could no longer face Gu Tian'an. His kindness made it impossible for me to harbor any resentment. Yet I could not continue to coexist with him. Knock, knock. Standing at the door of the board office with my resignation letter in hand, I rapped gently. The door swung open to reveal the elderly principal, his hair a shade of silver, who greeted me with a warm smile. "Teacher Rome, what brings you here?" I nodded slightly and respectfully handed him my resignation letter. The principal glanced over it, his expression shifting to one of surprise. "Another resignation? You've barely been back for half a month." I offered him an apologetic smile, gesturing, "Principal, I'm sorry for the trouble. I don't intend to return this time." Sighing deeply, the principal replied, "Teacher Rong, you were specifically entrusted by young Master Gu to receive special attention. Perhaps it would be best to wait for him to return and discuss your resignation with him." After a brief pause, he added, "Though, young Master Gu is likely too preoccupied with pressing matters at the moment." A sudden sense of dread washed over me, and I quickly inquired, "Has something happened to Gu Tian'an?" The principal adjusted his glasses, regarding me as if I were an alien. "Haven't you seen the news? Gu Corporation is under malicious attack. The stocks have already plummeted to their limit. If they cannot withstand today's turmoil, they will declare bankruptcy by tomorrow." My thoughts immediately turned to Long Yanting. It must have been his doing. "Principal, I must leave." I hastily gestured, thrusting the resignation letter into the principal's hands before turning on my heel and rushing out. By the time I managed to hail a cab and arrived at Longting Group, I dashed straight to Long Yanting's office, where he was engaged in a phone call. His gaze was icy, his voice sharp. "Prepare the funds for the acquisition of Gu Corporation. I demand results by 10 tonight. Tomorrow's headlines will belong to Gu Tian'an. He'll either come crawling to me, or he will leap from the rooftop of Gu Corporation, which will soon bear a different name. Spare him." I seized a large marker from Long Yanting's desk and hastily scrawled a message, holding it up before him. His expression shifted, and he covered the receiver of the phone, frowning as he asked, "What are you doing here?" I quickly lowered my head and continued to write, "Long Yanting, spare Gu Tian'an. I have resigned. I will no longer see him. I will become your assistant. Please let him go. You think too highly of yourself." Long Yanting shot back, his lips curling in disdain, dismissing me entirely as he turned back to the phone, coldly instructing, "Proceed as planned." I stood opposite Long Yanting, feeling as though a bucket of ice water had been poured over me, chilling me from head to toe. Indeed, because of a fleeting sense of guilt, Long Yanting had been gentle with me for a few days, and in my naivety, I had forgotten his previous indifference. I even dared to bargain with him, which was truly an overestimation of my own worth. Long Yanting ended the call, leaned back in his grand chair, and gazed at me for a prolonged moment before finally curling his lips into a mocking smile. "Weren't you the one who claimed to adore that sign language teacher position?" he queried. I nodded honestly. Indeed, I cherished it, yet I also had my limits. Thus, Long Yanting raised an eyebrow, letting out a derisive chuckle. "You would rather relinquish your most beloved job to secure my cessation of actions against the Goof family? You would sacrifice your own identity to barter with your husband for a man who has harmed your child. Rong Zishi, who do you think you are? A woman who cannot even comprehend a budget report dares to aspire to become the executive assistant at my Lanting group? How will you convene meetings with subordinates? How will you communicate with clients? Do not presume that merely bearing the visage of Rong Zi entitles you to such a role. Let me inform you, you do not even measure up to a fragment of your sister's worth." Thus, I realized the position I held in Long Yanting's eyes. The notion that he liked me was utterly absurd. Overcome with shame, I covered my face and fled from the room. Chapter 41. Not every apology can be met with forgiveness this time. Instead of frantically running about, I found solace in the tranquil garden beneath the towering edifice, where I composed a lengthy message to Long Yanting. "Long Yanting, I implore you to cease your vendetta against Gu Tianan, no matter the circumstances. The child can never return to my side, and I wish to spare others from further suffering. I trust you have already exacted your punishment upon Ling Feifei. As for Gu Tianan, he is merely an accomplice who remains silent. The devastation of the Gu family is sufficient retribution. Why must you pursue total annihilation? Or is it that you wish to transfer your own guilt and remorse onto others? Lastly, allow me to clarify. My resignation was not an attempt to save Gu Tianan, but rather a consequence of my inability to regard him as a friend after all that has transpired." Having sent the message, I turned off my phone. In my moments of utmost despair and helplessness, it was Gu Tianan who offered me gentle care, hope, and strength. I endeavored to persuade Long Yanting to spare the Gu family, as a means of repaying that kindness. I had done my utmost. What Long Yanting chose to do next was beyond my control. I hailed a cab to the seaside, where I remained seated for the entire day. Gazing at the tumultuous waves, my heart gradually found peace. For so long, I had revolved around Long Yanting, and later, I became enmeshed in the anguish of losing a child. I had never truly lived for myself until today. Long Yanting's thunderous words extinguished the final flicker of hope within me. Standing upon the rocks, I spread my arms wide, staring into the vast expanse of the sea, and shouted, "Rong Zishi, from this day forth, you must be true to yourself." My mouth opened wide, yet no sound emerged, the briny sea breeze filling my mouth. I had exerted myself, yet I could not utter a word. The thought of Long Yanting's disdain for my silence pierced my heart like a knife. I clenched my shattered heart tightly and continued to shout silently, "Rong Zishi, from today onward, strive to ensure no one looks down upon you. You can do it." The sea wind filled my throat, bitter and acrid. Yet I persisted, shouting as if to expel all the pent-up discontent from my heart. Unable to speak, I could only emit a mournful sound akin to an animal's lament. Ah! Finally, I tasted the metallic tang of blood rising from my throat. I ceased my cries and carefully descended from the rocks, resolute in my decision to no longer inflict torment upon myself. Even if the entire world abandoned me, I would learn to love myself. In the distance, a vehicle was parked on the beach, a tall and striking figure leaning against it. The setting sun casting an elongated shadow. A sense of familiarity washed over me. I hurried forward, but when I discerned the person's visage, my feet froze in place. It was Long Yanting. I cannot tell how long he had been standing there, his eyes reddened by the sea breeze. I approached him, offering a bright smile. Long Yanting appeared momentarily taken aback. His lips parted slightly, yet ultimately, he said nothing. He likely did not anticipate that I would cast aside my previous melancholic demeanor and transform into such a radiant presence. Leaving him at a loss for the comforting words he had prepared, I took the initiative to open the car door and settled inside, fastening my seatbelt like an obedient child. In an instant, Long Yanting's stern countenance softened. As he entered the driver's seat, he turned to me, his voice deep and husky. "Zishi, I am sorry." I pressed my lips together, choosing not to respond. Not every apology can be exchanged for assurances that all is well. Chapter 42. Long Yanting, save me. The Gu family ultimately did not face bankruptcy. Gu Tianin sold off all subsidiary companies except for the headquarters, even mortgaging multiple properties, and successfully weathered the storm. Of course, the most crucial factor was that Long Yanting relinquished the opportunity to deliver a final blow to Gu Tianin, allowing him to catch his breath. Among the assets under the Gu family, the only entity that remained untouched during this upheaval was the special education institution. Both Long Yanting and Gu Tianin intentionally avoided that location in their conflict. That place, which was once my sanctuary, where I felt at ease and free from inferiority, still stands intact, yet I can no longer step foot inside. I reverted to being the young mistress who rarely ventured beyond the doors, leading a life with Long Yanting that was neither heated nor cold. Long Yanting continued to arrive home punctually every day after work, dismissing any social engagements with ease, while I could only maintain a respectful distance from him. In the scorching heat of July, Sea City is notorious for being a furnace, particularly unbearable in summer. My sister's room cannot exceed a certain temperature, so every year at this time, we retreat to a summer resort for 2 months. This place is called Yinfeng Villa, nestled beneath sprawling greenery, featuring rows of charming wooden houses. Upon arriving at Yinfeng Villa, I instinctively pulled my suitcase toward the northern corner. Long Yanting called out to me, "Zishi, you should stay in this room." I glanced at the room he indicated, the finest among the houses, traditionally reserved for my sister, conveniently adjacent to his own. I shook my head gently, declining his offer. Long Yanting pressed his lips together, saying nothing further. That evening, I sat by the window, poring over my CPA review materials. The hefty tome, filled with dense text and intricate concepts, made my head spin, and soon I felt drowsy. I recalled how Long Yanting once derided me, claiming I could not even compare to my sister's little toe. That disdainful expression is one I shall never forget. Therefore, I forced myself to focus and continued to wrestle with the text. A gentle breeze wafted through the window, yet I ultimately succumbed to sleep, my head resting heavily upon the pages. In the dead of night, I was jolted awake by an unbearable, suffocating heat. As I lifted my head, I was met with blinding light surrounding the room, thick smoke billowing, and the crackling sound of burning would echoing in my ears. Disaster! A fire! As I opened my mouth to scream, the acrid smoke rushed in, choking me to tears. Cough, cough. I quickly crouched down, attempting to dash toward the door. Just as I took a step, a burning beam crashed down, blocking the entrance, and the surroundings ignited into a blazing inferno. This is terrible. I cannot escape. Help! I opened my mouth, but could produce no sound. Only the thick smoke filled my lungs, as if intent on turning my entire chest to ashes. Cough, cough. I struggled to lower my head, feeling the oxygen around me grow increasingly scarce, my eyelids growing heavier, consciousness gradually slipping away. Zishi! Zishi, where are you? Zishi! In the searing heat, a familiar voice seemed to urgently call out to me. I struggled to lift my eyelids, but before me lay only a blinding blaze of fire. I am here. Long Yanting, save me. In the final moment before losing consciousness, the blurred visage of that man appeared before my eyes. Yanting, Chapter 43. He rescued your sister. First it felt as though I'd been ensnared in an interminable dream. In this dream, I found myself engulfed by a torrent of flames, with Long Yanting standing before me, observing my plight. I lay on the ground, weakly struggling, my voice hoarse as I cried out, "Long Yanting, save me! Long Yanting, save me!" He glanced at me with a mocking gaze, retorting, "You are not even worth a single toe of your sister. What use is it for me to save you?" Then, he lifted my sister into his arms and turned away, walking into the sea, never looking back. No, no. This scene replayed in an endless loop within my mind, tormenting me to the brink of madness. Zishi, Zishi, wake up. Someone was incessantly calling beside me. I struggled to awaken, and upon opening my eyes, I was met with a pair of bloodshot, red eyes. It was Gu Tianan. I lowered my gaze, concealing the wave of despondency within me. Awakening was a relief. Gu Tianan pretended not to notice my hint of disappointment, reaching for a towel to wipe the sweat from my brow. Where am I? I opened my mouth, only to discover that my throat burned with pain. Attempting to gesture, I realized my hands were tightly bandaged. Gu Tianan pressed his hand down on me. Do not speak or move. You inhaled a substantial amount of smoke, and your throat is infected. You also have minor burns on your arm. You need a rest. The memories of the cabin flooded back, and I involuntarily shuddered, my pupils dilating with fear. Gu Tianan quickly enveloped me in his arms, softly reassuring, do not be afraid, Zishi. I am here. Everything will be all right. It was then that I noticed Gu Tianan's voice was also hoarse. Turning my gaze to his arm, I saw that despite wearing a white shirt, the cuffs revealed signs of bandaging, indicating that he too had sustained injuries. I inquired with my eyes, did you save me? Gu Tianan nodded, then gently patted my head, smiling tenderly. This place is very safe. You should rest well and not overthink. Suddenly, thoughts of Long Yanting and my sister invaded my mind, causing my pupils to contract in dread as I anxiously looked toward Gu Tianan. Where's Long Yanting? What about my sister? Do not worry, they are both fine. Gu Tianan's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of discomfort crossing his handsome features as he averted his gaze from mine. I hastily reached for him, disregarding the pain that tore through my wounds, gesticulating frantically. You are not lying, are you? When Gu Tianan turned back to me, his face remained gentle and reassuring. Silly, do you think I would deceive you? Instinctively, I sensed he was hiding something. I stubbornly gazed at Gu Tianan and insisted, where's Long Yanting? I need to see him. Gu Tianan's eyes flickered momentarily. Once you are well. No, I want to see him now. Seeing my resolute demeanor, Long Yanting grasped my gesturing hand and gently tucked it back under the covers, somewhat reproachfully saying, you are still injured. I told you to move less. I stubbornly fixed my gaze on him, determined to extract an answer. Gu Tianan sighed deeply, casting a tender glance in my direction. When the fire broke out, Long Yanting carried your sister out, and now he must be by her side, likely too preoccupied to come see you. It turns out that everything in my dream was indeed real. In an instant, I felt a sharp pang in my chest, a suffocating pain that was 100 times worse than being engulfed by flames. My heart bled profusely, yet I managed to maintain a feeble smile on my face. My sister is in a vegetative state, devoid of any ability to save herself. It was only right for him to rescue her first. Gu Tianan looked at me with eyes full of anguish. Fool, you are also someone incapable of self-rescue. Have you forgotten? You cannot even speak, not even a call for help. Z is merely a person in a vegetative state. If she goes, then so be it. Perhaps feeling it inappropriate to speak of my sister in such a manner before me, Gu Tianan fell silent, casting an apologetic glance my way. But did I not already know all of this? However, in Long Yanting's heart, never mind, at least I am still alive. Seeing my smile, which was more sorrowful than a cry, Gu Tianan reached out to tousle my hair. Zishi, if you're in pain, just let it out. I shook my head. You should go out first. I'm tired and wish to rest for a while. All right, you take a nap. Gu Tianan once again tucked my hand under the covers and adjusted them. As he stepped outside and closed the door, I shut my eyes. An icy tear streamed down my cheeks. Chapter 44. A heart-wrenching injury. A week later, I finally regained the ability to walk. Gu Tianan provided me with the most tender and meticulous care. Each time he gazed at me with those profoundly gentle eyes, it rendered me incapable of uttering a single word of refusal. He saved me, and though I could not return his affections, I could not remain indifferent to his kindness. Throughout this week, Long Yanting had never come to see me, nor had he even called. Gu Tianan, citing my need for rest, severed all ties I had with the outside world. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was concealing something from me. That night, I awoke suddenly from a nightmare in the middle of the night and quietly got up to slip outside. The small building was enveloped in tranquility. Gu Tianan's room was just next door, and surprisingly, the light was still on. He had not yet gone to sleep. Just as I was about to retreat, I faintly heard voices. Driven by curiosity, I stealthily approached, and, peering through the gap in the curtains, I saw a woman, her back turned to me, applying medicine to Gu Tianan. When he lifted his shirt, I was horrified and instinctively covered my mouth with my hand. Gu Tianan's back was char-black, with blood seeping from some wounds, while others had already scabbed over, leaving behind a series of grotesque scars. I should have anticipated that since he had rushed into the flames to save me, his injuries would be severe. Almost instinctively, I pushed the door open and dashed inside. The two individuals inside were startled and turned to face me simultaneously. Ah! I stumbled back in shock, nearly falling to the ground. It was not merely Gu Tianan's horrific injuries that terrified me, but rather the woman. Her entire face was disfigured. It was utterly ghastly. Zishi, are you all right? Gu Tianan quickly reached out to catch me, hastily tearing off the shirt from his back while instructing the hideous woman, "You may leave now." The woman hurriedly averted her gaze and passed by me. In that fleeting moment, she shot me a glance filled with malice. It was chilling. I furrowed my brow and turned to look. The woman walked with a slight limp, yet her silhouette felt eerily familiar. I turned back, seeking clarification from Gu Tianan. "Who is she?" "No need to concern yourself," he replied nonchalantly. "She is a woman burned by fire. I took her in out of pity." I quickly inquired, "But what about you? Your back?" "Me fine." Gu Tianan smiled gently. "It's almost healed." "Nonsense. It was clearly infected. How could he claim to be fine?" I pouted, biting my lip to stifle my tears. Seeing my distressed expression, Gu Tianan's handsome face softened as he reached out to pat my head. "Do not worry. I truly am well. Zishi, it's chilly at night. Let me escort you back to rest." "No." I broke free from Gu Tianan's embrace, gazing at him defiantly, tears gradually welling in my eyes. I gestured slowly, asking, "Gu Tianan, with such severe injuries, why don't you go to the hospital? Don't you know how much it pains me to see you like this?" "Fool." Gu Tianan reached out to wipe away the tears from my cheeks. "Your tears are the most potent remedy for my healing. However, I wish not to see you weep for me again, for it pains my heart." Such candid words. A flush crept across my face, leaving me unable to offer Gu Tianan any response. I averted my gaze and gestured a silent good night. "Go on, rest early." Gu Tianan's voice remained gentle as water, yet the underlying huskiness betrayed an inconsolable sorrow. I took a few hurried steps, suddenly recalling the woman who had been tending to his wounds when I had barged in. I quickly turned around, gesturing to inquire, "Have you not finished your medication? Shall I assist you?" Chapter 45 revealed unexpectedly that it was Ling Fei. Gu Tianan's eyes flickered with a brief glimmer, which quickly faded into his usual gentleness. He subtly declined, saying, "I can manage this myself." "How would you handle it? Have you grown eyes on your back?" I shot him a glare, resolutely picking up the nearby medicine bottle and cotton swab. Seeing my stubbornness, Gu Tianan turned away, slowly lifting his shirt. Upon the first glimpse of his scarred back, I could not help but gasp in shock. Although I had seen it from the window earlier, witnessing those grotesque wounds up close was still heart-wrenching. "Gu Tianan, thank you." I inhaled sharply, dipped the cotton swab in the medicine, and gently applied it to his wounds. The moment I touched him, his back convulsed violently. I quickly withdrew my hand, but Gu Tianan reassured me with a comforting look. "It's all right, continue." Grimacing, I pressed the swab against his injury again, tears uncontrollably streaming down my face, falling onto a particularly ugly scar, seeping into his bloodied wounds. Looking at Gu Tianan's enduring profile, I hastily turned away to wipe my tears and continued to apply the medicine with greater care. Yet, with each application, my heart felt as if it were being tightly squeezed and kneaded. By the time I finished treating his entire back, I was drenched in a cold sweat. No wonder he preferred to have that ugly woman assist him rather than let me see such grievous injuries. It was utterly heartbreaking. "Gu Tianan, you risked your life to save me, yet silently endure this suffering. How can I bear it?" I dropped the cotton swab and instinctively wrapped my arms around his waist, tears soaking his shirt without restraint. Gu Tianan allowed me to hold him quietly. It felt as if an entire century passed before I suddenly realized my indiscretion and awkwardly released him, lowering my gaze in embarrassment. Fool! Gu Tiannan's gentle, hoarse voice echoed above me. Do not be sad. Everything I do for you is entirely voluntary. You should feel no pressure. I looked up, only to find his gaze filled with such tender affection that I could not meet it directly. So I averted my eyes slightly and urged, You should go to the hospital. There are signs of infection. Gu Tiannan chuckled dismissively. It's merely a superficial wound. You should rest for now. We can address it tomorrow. All right? I nodded obediently and returned to my room. The moment I closed the door, I seemed to catch a glimpse of a shadow in the corner. Startled, I quickly turned off the bedside lamp and stealthily concealed myself behind the curtains, standing motionless in the darkness, holding my breath and waiting. Sure enough, after a short while, the shadow emerged from the corner, and in the dim light outside, I recognized her as the ugly woman from earlier. She limped closer to my room, step by step. Suddenly, a commanding voice, lowered in volume, came from behind me. What are you doing? I turned my gaze, only to see Gu Tiannan standing at the doorway, casting a cold glare at the hideous woman, her expression rather ghastly. The ugly woman, caught in the act, momentarily displayed a flicker of terror upon her face. Gu Tiannan strode over, seizing her with a firm grip, his voice lowered to a menacing whisper. Ling Fei, I warn you, if you dare to appear before Zixi again, I shall cast you back and turn you to ashes. I widened my eyes in shock within the shadows. This grotesque woman was indeed Ling Fei. Moreover, judging by her appearance, it was evident that she had barely escaped the inferno, bearing significant injuries. Glancing at Gu Tiannan, I beheld a countenance of such ruthless intensity, one I had never witnessed before. Ling Fei's eyes reflected sheer terror. Trembling in Gu Tiannan's grasp, she seemed rendered speechless, merely bowing repeatedly in submission. With a palpable disdain, Gu Tiannan released her, uttering in a low tone, Begone. You are never to step outside your den again. Ling Fei, limping, hastily departed, while Gu Tiannan cast a worried glance toward my door before turning back. I stood behind the curtain, a silent witness to this unfolding drama, my heart chilled with foreboding. Instinctively, I sensed that matters were far from straightforward. Furthermore, what was the origin of that inexplicable conflagration? Chapter 46. Why is it not you who died 2 days later? I finally seized the opportunity when Gu Tiannan was away from home and found myself behind the small Western-style villa. There stood an exceedingly simple and lowly little house, which appeared to have once served as a doghouse. Ling Fei, her face covered in grime, poked her head out from the dilapidated structure. Upon seeing me, she froze momentarily, only to quickly avert her gaze. However, the animosity in her eyes was impossible to conceal. Ling Fei, what are you doing here? I handed her a sheet of paper and a pen, upon which she glanced briefly before suddenly swatting it to the ground. Mind your own business, she shouted vehemently, yet the sound that emerged from her throat was merely a sharp, grating noise akin to metal scraping against rusted iron. I deciphered her lip movements and picked up the notebook, continuing to write. Has your voice been burned? What happened during that fire? How did you end up there? Ling Fei suddenly revealed a sinister smile, a ghastly expression that contorted her already twisted face, sending chills down my spine. She snatched the notebook from my grasp and wrote furiously. Why was I there? Because I started that fire. Now I couldn't kill you, and I've turned myself into this wretched state. Are you satisfied? Why is it not you who died? The final sentence was inscribed with a fervor that suggested she was gritting her teeth in rage. She then slammed the notebook onto me, spun around, and with a resounding bang, shut the wooden door behind her. I stood there, stunned, gazing at the haunting words that seemed to pierce through the paper. If it wasn't me who died, then who could it possibly be? Wasn't everyone else unharmed? As my thoughts raced, I clutched the notebook and hurried back. Suddenly, I collided with a solid figure. Zixi, why are you so flustered? Gu Tiannan's voice resonated from above. Before I could gather my thoughts, he swiftly snatched the notebook from my hands. Did you go see that ugly woman? What did you both discuss? I looked up to see a fleeting shadow cross Gu Tiannan's face, reminiscent of the expression I had seen that fateful night. A shiver ran through me as I furrowed my brows at him. Gu Tiannan, did Ling Fei truly set that fire? Are you concealing something from me? His discerning gaze fell upon the notebook before turning back to scrutinize me, his eyes filled with a complexity I couldn't comprehend. Finally, he led me into the house and sighed deeply. Since you've uncovered the truth, I shall reveal everything to you. That fire was indeed set by Ling Fei. She sought revenge against you and Long Yenting. However, she mistook your room, and instead of you, it was your sister who perished. I felt a sudden constriction in my chest, my vision darkening. Gu Tiannin quickly enveloped me in his arms. His eyes filled with both regret and concern as he gazed at me. The reason I didn't tell you was that I feared you wouldn't be able to bear it. Nestled in Gu Tiannan's embrace, it took me a while to regain my composure, tears streaming down my face as I asked, "What about my sister? Where is she now?" "Long Yinting has already buried her. Rest assured, her funeral was quite grand," he replied. In an instant, I was engulfed in tears. Sister, my only kin in this world, the beautiful woman who shares my likeness, has unexpectedly departed from this realm, and yet I was unable to bid her farewell. No, I refused to accept this. I abruptly pushed Gu Tiannin away, gazing at him as if he were a stranger. "You clearly stated that Long Yanting was the one who rescued her. You deceitful liar. I must return to find her." Gu Tiannin grasped my flailing hands, a flicker of remorse crossing his eyes. "Zishi, please calm yourself. You are well aware that Z was essentially a vegetative state, her vitality exceedingly fragile. Under such circumstances, even a rescue would be futile. Why has it come to this?" Words eluded me as I silently wept in Gu Tiannan's embrace. "Gu Tiannin, I long to return and see my sister." A trace of difficulty flickered across Gu Tiannan's face. After a prolonged hesitation, he finally spoke. "Zishi, you cannot go back. Long Yanting has long since declared her death." Chapter 47. He has announced your death. The news struck me like a blunt force, leaving me utterly bewildered. I was alive, and yet Long Yanting had proclaimed my demise. I had died. Gu Tiannin steadied my faltering form, enveloping me in a firm embrace. His voice deep and resolute. "Zishi, do not grieve. I am here for you. No matter what transpires, I shall always stand by your side. In my heart, you are the sole priority, surpassing even my own existence." I struggled to inhale deeply, emerging from Gu Tiannan's embrace to gaze at him with a calm demeanor. "Clarify this for me. How did I become a dead person?" Gu Tiannin cradled my head tenderly, affectionately ruffling my hair. "That day, after Long Yanting carried your sister out, he was in shock upon discovering she had no breath. He desperately called for equipment, seeking a respirator while chaos ensued. By the time they remembered you, the entire row of wooden houses had turned to ashes, which led him to announce her death. A bitter smile curled upon my lips as tears traced my cheeks. "Zishi." Gu Tiannin held me tighter, his concern palpable. "When I reached the scene, Long Yanting was lost in thought, holding your sister's lifeless body, utterly indifferent to your fate. So, after I rescued you from the flames, I secretly brought you to this secluded place without informing Long Yanting." He suddenly lifted my chin, gazing deeply into my eyes. "Zishi, since in Long Yanting's heart you have already departed, why would you wish to return to that cold-hearted man? Zishi, once you feel better, I will take you away from here. No, we shall leave tomorrow. You deserve a fresh start, a life treated with the respect you merit. Come with me, Zishi. Even if you cannot love me in return, my love for you will suffice." The fervent light in Gu Tiannan's eyes rendered me speechless, unable to utter a single word of refusal. And Long Yanting, the man for whom I had expended every ounce of my being in love, had already declared my death. Did I even have a choice left? To forever depart from this sorrowful place could very well be the wisest decision. I nodded with great difficulty, yet an overwhelming tide of grief surged within me, akin to a torrential flood, submerging me entirely. "How wonderful, Zishi!" Gu Tiannin exclaimed, his laughter youthful and innocent as he spun me around joyfully. He began to merrily prepare for our journey. In the afternoon, as I watched him leave, I stealthily approached the doghouse behind the villa. Ling Fei had attempted to incinerate me. Since she cared so much, there was no reason to harbor such a vile woman. Something felt amiss, and I was determined not to let Ling Fei, the one who sought my harm, escape unscathed. The dilapidated door of the doghouse was tightly shut. I pushed it open, a foul odor wafting out, revealing remnants of uneaten food scattered about. Yet there was no sign of Ling Fei. Where had that malicious, ugly woman gone? I bent down and entered the small doghouse, carefully inspecting the surroundings. Beneath a tattered heap resembling a dog bed, I discerned a faint white mark. Upon further examination, I discovered a densely written sheet of paper. Just as I was about to unfold it, footsteps echoed outside. Hastily, I crumpled the paper and tucked it into my pocket before hurriedly making my exit. Zishi, what brings you here? Gu Tianan stood before the doghouse, furrowing his brow at me, with an unmistakable tone of reproach in his voice. It seemed he disapproved of my presence here. I cut to the chase, inquiring, "Where's Ling Fei?" Gu Tianan's gaze flickered momentarily, and he replied, "She was thrown out by me." I regarded him intently. "Ling Fei attempted to take my life, yet you chose to save her. Shouldn't you provide me with an explanation? Gu Tianan, since I have agreed to leave with you, I expect a resolution to the past. Soda, Vikshi." Gu Tianan's demeanor softened instantly. I allowed Ling Fei to live, believing that the torment of feeling worse than death would be more unbearable for her. If you feel unsatisfied, I can retrieve her immediately. No need for that. I scoffed coldly. I am no saint. Let her endure a life worse than death. Chapter 48. You have been deceived by Gu Tianan at last. The time for slumber arrived. I securely locked the door, drew the curtains tightly, and retrieved the crumpled piece of paper from my pocket. The scrawled handwriting appeared hurried, as if penned in haste. "Rong Zi Shi, you mute. I cannot fathom how you possess the audacity to make those men go to such lengths for you. If you're able to read this note, it signifies that fortune has favored you. Gu Tianan is a thorough scoundrel. By the time you stumble upon this note, I may no longer exist. Since he seeks to silence me, I shall no longer guard his secrets. Rong Zi Shi, you fool. You have been deceived by Gu Tianan." When the fire erupted that day, Long Yin Ting was not present. He had received an urgent call and rushed back to the city. I only set the fire after I saw him leave, never anticipating that Gu Tianan would serendipitously arrive. That vile man was the one who thrust me into the flames, leaving my face marred. I intended to see you perish, yet I ended up bearing the blame for his deeds. He saved you, but callously threw your sister into your room, creating the illusion of your demise in the fire, thereby deceiving Long Yin Ting to whisk you away. He is the true murderer of your sister. I escaped the inferno, and in an effort to ensure my silence, he provided me shelter. However, after you inadvertently discover the truth, he would undoubtedly seek to eliminate me. Rong Zi. Do take care. As I gazed at the disheveled script on the paper, my hand trembled violently, the pain and indescribable fury coursing through my veins, eroding my very being. I had always been grateful to Gu Tianan for saving my life. It was unfathomable that he would resort to such unscrupulous means to possess me. A night devoid of sleep ensued. The following morning, Gu Tianan took me away. I looked at him and gestured, "Tianan, I wish to see Long Ting Tower." His expression darkened instantly. His hands, which hung by his sides, clenched and then relaxed, before he murmured, "All right." Half an hour later, Gu Tianan brought me to the square in front of Long Ting Tower and came to a gradual halt. He turned to me and said, "Zishi, please do not change your mind." I glanced at the faint scar beneath his white shirt and nodded softly. Some decisions I had made the night before were resolute and would not waver. Across from us, the colossal electronic screen of Long Ting Tower displayed news of the Long family acquiring the Gu family. Long Yin Ting appeared on the screen. Having not seen him for half a month, he seemed considerably leaner, his features more defined, enveloped in a somber atmosphere with a hint of bitterness in his gaze. Was he in sorrow? Was it for his sister or for me? From a distance, I beheld Long Yin Ting's figure, my gaze gradually becoming entranced. No matter the past grievances, God knows how much I yearn for this man. "Let us go, Zishi." Gu Tianan's voice cut through the reverie, tinged with coldness. I turned to him, gesturing a question, if he were given the chance to reclaim the Gu family. "Do not." Gu Tianan interrupted swiftly. "Aside from you, I desire nothing. Then what of your conscience? Gu Tiannan was taken aback. Zishi, what are you saying? I took the writing board in front of him and meticulously inscribed, Gu Tiannan, where is your conscience? Gu Tiannan trembled violently, turning to look at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. Zishi, what does this mean? I regarded him calmly. Gu Tiannan, Ling Fei left me a letter before she departed. In an instant, Gu Tiannan appeared as if struck by a fatal blow, his entire demeanor fading into despondency. I had previously harbored some doubt regarding Ling Fei's words, but witnessing Gu Tiannan's expression now, the ache within me expanded boundlessly. I lowered my head and continued to write. Gu Tiannan, either return me to Long Yinting, restoring your Gu family, or I shall perish. Gu Tiannan's pupils constricted sharply, his handsome face contorting in anguish as he whispered furiously, Zishi, why must you force me like this? Can you not see all that I have done for you? His voice trembled with emotion. I would even risk my life for you. I gazed at him sorrowfully and added, and to possess me, I would even gamble away my sister's life. Gu Tiannan was instantly engulfed in a tempest of agitation. Rongzi is merely a vegetable. I looked at Gu Tiannan earnestly, a glimmer of resolve shining in my eyes. I had stolen my sister's happiness and caused her demise. Gu Tiannan, I must in my sister's name return to Long Yinting's side. The solution you shall devise. Chapter 49. What I owe my sister. A week later, after consuming a sleeping potion, I was returned to the side of Long Yinting. Meanwhile, Gu Tiannan, by virtue of a life-saving grace, reclaimed the shares of the Gu Corporation that had been acquired by Long Yinting. As I opened my eyes, I was met by the visage of a handsome face magnified before me. Ziyu, you're awake? Long Yanting's voice was imbued with an unprecedented tenderness, his concern and affection palpable. This version of Long Yanting was one I had never encountered before. A pang of bitterness surged within me. Indeed, he was different with my sister. I blinked once, signaling my well-being. A flicker of joy crossed his features as he grasped my hand, almost childlike in his delight. Thank that great fire. It seems to have roused you. The doctor said your bodily functions are quite stable, and with some exercise, you will fully recover. However, your vocal cords have been damaged, and you will no longer be able to speak. But that is all right. You can use a writing board, and I can teach you sign language. Long Yanting rambled on, as if he were eager to compensate for the years of silence my sister had endured. I listened quietly, unable to articulate the tumult of emotions swirling within me. Half a month later, under the guidance of the doctor, I regained my health and became akin to an ordinary person once more. From that point on, I transformed into another individual. Rongziyu. Although Long Yanting's daily tenderness and indulgence towards me stemmed from his feelings for my sister, I suppressed all my bitterness and found joy in it. This was what I owed my sister. I would live out the remainder of her life in her stead. However, I soon realized that while I was striving to embody my sister's role, Long Yanting was diligently attempting to shape Rongziyu into the likeness of Rongzishi. He would caress my short, tousled hair and gently say, Ziyu, let your hair grow long. You would look even more beautiful with long hair. When we visited the mall, he effortlessly identified dresses I would adore. Ziyu, try this one on. You look more charming in skirts. He took me to dessert shops to buy cakes I relished. And, astonishingly, he learned to cook, his culinary skills commendable, preparing dishes I adored. I discovered that his understanding of me surpassed even my own. Amidst the sweetness and happiness, a profound sense of guilt washed over me. I aimed to replace my sister, yet all of Long Yanting's tenderness seemed to be directed towards the identity of Rong Ziyu merely as a conduit for his affections for the departed Rong Zishi. Every day, Long Yanting would teach me sign language for a while. His movements were graceful and adept, as if he had mastered it many years ago. Curiously, I inquired, did you know this before? Long Yanting smiled bitterly. Yes, Zishi could not speak, so I learned sign language long ago, even earlier than Gu Tiannan. Otherwise, how could I understand what Zishi wanted? Back then, I tried every means to compel her to speak, but Gu Tiannan always protected her. Perhaps that was when she began to prefer him. Had I known this, I would have simply wished for her happiness. Why must I have pressured her? A lump formed in my throat, and I hastily lowered my head. Z, do not leave me again. Long Yanting suddenly cupped my face in his hands, gradually leaning closer, his gaze filled with an unwavering depth of affection. Instinctively, I closed my eyes, my heart pounding like a drum. Chapter 50, Zishi. Do not be afraid in the blink of an eye. 2 months have elapsed. On this day, I found myself concealed in the restroom, gazing at the 2 crimson lines on the pregnancy test, my heart enveloped in a tumult of emotions as I reflected on the child I once lost. Perhaps this is the universe's way of compensating me, even if it is under the guise of my sister's name. I discreetly disposed of the test strip, pondering how to present a delightful surprise to Long Yanting. In the evening, upon his return, before I could utter a word, he affectionately ruffled my hair and said, I heard that the blossoms on Peach Blossom Island have bloomed. I shall accompany you to see them tomorrow. Peach Blossom Island, located in City C, is an inconspicuous isle amidst the river, named for its profusion of peach blossoms. During our wedding, we did not embark on a honeymoon trip, and I had chosen this modest locale, timidly suggesting it to Long Yanting, only to be met with a frigid refusal, citing a lack of time. To my astonishment, he still remembered it to this day. I nodded, a wave of bittersweetness washing over me. How could this be? It must be a mountain flood. Long Yanting, tensed and alert, suddenly embraced me tightly, cursing under his breath. Damn it, how could I forget that spring is when floods are most likely to occur? He held me firmly against his chest, resolute and reassuring. Zishi, do not be afraid. I have already sent out a distress signal. Help will arrive soon. He instructed. I will take you to the shore. Once we reach the land, you must run to higher ground. In a state of panic, I clutched his clothing, momentarily oblivious to the fact that he had distinctly called me Zishi. With one arm around me, he fiercely paddled toward the bank. The river surged violently, transforming the land that had been mere steps away into a distant realm, the thunderous roar approaching swiftly, akin to a stampede of 1,000 steeds. Returning to the shore had become an impossibility. Long Yanting discarded the paddle and hastily seized the rope, securely binding me to the side of the boat. Zishi, hold on. Do not let go. A tumultuous wave of murky water, like a ferocious beast, descended upon us. Long Yanting lost his footing and was instantly thrown onto the deck. The sound of splintering wood echoed as torrents of water gushed from beneath the boat. The small vessel was violently ripped apart by the tremendous force of the flood. I reached out, yearning to grasp Long Yanting's hand. But just as my fingers were about to brush against his, a colossal wave struck, hurling me far away, and I immediately succumbed to darkness. Chapter 51. Awaiting you with the child upon awakening, I found myself enveloped in an icy desolation. The small vessel had long since shattered into fragments, leaving only the wooden plank tethered to my body. With great difficulty, I turned my head, and there appeared the weary, yet handsome visage of Long Yanting. Zishi, you are awake? His eyes sparkled with a brilliance reminiscent of shattered diamonds. Do not fear, Zishi. I can push you to shore. Tears welled in my eyes, but I fought to suppress them, focusing intently on him. Zishi, when Gu Tianan brought you back, I knew without a doubt that you had returned. Gu Tianan would only save you, never Ziyu. I wish to make amends with you, I struggled to extend my hand, signaling him to cease speaking. Long Yanting gave a bittersweet smile, his voice laden with an unspeakable sorrow. I fear that if I do not speak now, I may never have the chance again. Zishi, the one I have always loved is you. My indifference over the years stemmed from jealousy. I envied your affection for Gu Tianan, and I yearned for your complete love. Zishi, I love you. As I observed Long Yanting's movements gradually slowing and the desolation in his gaze, it struck me that he had long since exhausted all his strength. He was on the brink of collapse. Long Yanting, I love you too. I love you, and you alone. In a desperate attempt to speak, I could only emit a sound akin to a wounded beast's cry. At that moment, I had never despised being mute more than I did. Long Yanting, I love you. From a very young age, loving you is a pain I cannot articulate. I gazed at him sorrowfully, tears streaming down my face. Hold on. Long Yanting suddenly exerted all his strength to push me forward. In my dizzying state, I collided with a large tree, instinctively grasping it tightly. When I turned back, however, the force of his push had sent him into the tumultuous current. Long Yanting, I frantically searched the water's surface for any trace of him, shouting his name, Long Yanting. Long Yanting. Suddenly, I distinctly heard my own voice. Long Yanting. I could actually produce sound. A surge of joy filled my heart as I shouted louder into the raging waters. Long Yanting. You must survive. The child and I are waiting for you. Several hours later, I was finally rescued, yet there was still no word of Long Yanting. Upon returning to City C and learning that the child was safe, I went back to Longting Group, determined to safeguard all that Long Yanting cherished until his return. I exhausted every effort to search along the river for him. A week passed, yet there was still no news. I replaced all advertisements of Longting Group with a single pregnancy report and a poignant message. Long Yanting. The child and I await your return. A month later, Long Yanting remained silent, his whereabouts unknown. The end.